Why, hello, ladies. Normally we do an advertisement for joeshrimpshack.com, which you can still save 15% off using promo code Aquarium Guys at checkout. But today we're going to be talking about a hot single, Joe Tyson, the owner of Joe Shrimp Shack. Yes, he's single and ready to mingle. Joe is 6 feet tall, 205 chiseled pounds of pure muscle. He's 43 years of age and has blue, dreamy eyes that burn like sapphires. So if you like pina coladas and getting caught in the rain and would like your chance at this handsome single, email us at aquariumguyspodcast@gmail.com and maybe you can find yourself a hot Joe. joeshrimpshack.com. Always for the ladies. One last thing to mention is please don't forget about Cobalt Aquatic and Reef Flowers aquascaping competition. The notes are below. Certainly fill out the form. We'd love you to submit fresh or salt water. Anybody's welcome. You can submit multiple tanks. They're giving out great prizes. Certainly check it out. Let's kick that podcast.
Welcome to the Aquarium Guys podcast with your hosts, Jim Colby and Rob Zolson.
Hey guys, welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited. It finally happened, Jimmy.
What happened?
COVID Can't Stop Storytime 3.
Oh my God, we are so lucky.
We got to do with friends, right? We did the first one alone, second one was with friends. Now we got some friends again. We're never going to do this without friends, in my opinion.
Sounds like your sex life.
It
really does. You know, first you did it alone.
No, that's not COVID
There were some
friendly.
friends.
He doesn't really have very many friends.
See?
That's why his experiences are far and few between.
It's all over. Well, I'm your host, Rob Zolson.
I am Jim Colby.
And I'm Adam Lashar.
He didn't hit his head on the mic.
I know. That's my favorite part of the whole
Like the last
podcast.
one.
When he leans forward into the microphone and smacks it like
Just dong.
dong.
And Bentley and I are amused that you think we're your friends.
Right? So our happy acquaintances this evening
Fuck nuts and pork chop.
is Alexander Williamson from The Secret History Living in Your Aquarium. I got the name right without looking it up. Look at me go.
Better than me.
And we also have with us Bentley Pascoe. I think I said that right, from his self-titled YouTube channel as well.
Hi. I'm a man of few words.
I got them both right.
And then after the podcast,
I regret to burst your bubble, but it's just Pascoe.
Damn it.
I knew
Damn it.
That's why I was laughing, because
I was so close.
I knew it was so wrong.
Luke, I'm your
As long as
father.
you get the first name right, I really don't care.
All right.
You are
Before we start, right, we got to go through questions like normal and reviews. But Jimmy,
Yes.
I want to thank you. Your trade.
Kill.
Oh, hi, Joe. Joe snuck in as well. Hi, Joe.
Hey,
So Joe can't, he's got to be here to listen to story time. So again, Jimmy, before we start the podcast, I got to thank you
yes.
so much. We got this beautiful gift. See, your daytime job is bread liaison.
Yes.
And in Minnesota, we have this wonderful tradition of being really fat. And how we get that fat in the holidays is through a potato-based product called Lefsa. For those that haven't tried it, I highly suggest it. Order it in. We have a popular name brand called Laura's Lefsa, and it is the shit. Now, homemade is always slightly better.
Why did you get to Rob's?
Because
I love Lexa.
Because you're like 6 hours away.
he's diabetic, and I'm hoping to kill him.
Right. That's how I'm going to have my
it's
fingers
not
and toes.
fat. It's fluffy.
Not fat, it's fluffy. Oh, man. Anyways, so thank you for the Lefsa. Look it up, guys. You can put like butter, sugar, eat it straight. It's just potato cocaine. So thank you for these plastic baggies.
Of potato cocaine.
Potato cocaine.
I can't wait till the door gets kicked in.
It's Scandinavian potato cocaine.
Yes.
Just want to be quite frank on that. So tonight we've gathered together, and again, we're going to do story time 3 with you all. We all have stories prepared. Embarrassing, explicit. So know that you're warned that this is not intended for children. Normally I would put this at the beginning of the podcast, but why not put it here when we're starting the content? So we're going to answer some questions and then get into our traditional uncensored story time, even though we're still going to put some beeps in there. We ran out of quacks last time. So,
Damn COVID.
it's expensive, man. Quacks aren't what they used to be. As far as the first questions and reviews, we'll go over the first review. It says, great show. I don't know what the other reviewer is talking about. These guys are funny as hell. They really know their stuff behind the humor. And there is some amazing information for hobbyists, novice, or experienced people. Love the guests as well. Very easy way to pass the time at work. So thank you for that 5-star review. I think you're referring to our favorite review, which basically it's a 4 out of 5. And that's how we feel, is that we have some great guests and info on here, but our humor is intolerable. So thank you for all that to review. I think the review source is on Apple. Most other platforms don't even allow a space for a user to give a review. So if you're not listening on Apple, email us. Let us know that we suck or don't.
I can tell you right here, you suck.
Right.
I don't even have to email that in.
So the next one is a message from Facebook. So he said, "Hi guys, discovered your podcast. Love it. Started to catch up because I'm because I'm working on a little shrimp tank right now. I really like the podcast on shrimps. My already existing tank houses a nice little triop colony and wondered if you'd like to make an episode on triops, artemia, or other little hardy guys. Love to hear more. Thanks very much. Keep it going. Best wishes from Germany."
Wow. Didn't we already do an episode on sea monkeys?
We did. We referenced sea monkeys.
I was there.
You were there, I know. It was the best sea monkey
you were
episode
there.
I've ever
You were
heard.
there.
I just feel like any crustaceans that we have to do besides popular shrimp. I mean, we got Joe. Shout out, buddy, that will unmute himself. Whoop, 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 whoop. Any other crustaceans we have to go? We got to talk to Biggs. He's the guy that has those crazy giant isopods and.
I had a cream for that once.
Yeah.
Crap, you have a cream for everything.
Dry, itchy skin. All right, so let's go to the other questions. We have text message that was sent to us. And again, you guys can find all this contact information. Go to aquariumguyspodcast.com. Bottom of the website, you'll find an email. You'll find a number you can call and text. Leave a voicemail if you so choose. You can go on Facebook, message us there. We do Twitter, but Jimmy got lazy. So a text message says, "Hi guys, I'm an experienced fish keeper for about 15 years now. I've decided to try and fund my hobby, or at least some of it, through breeding, which I've never attempted. There are so many different options on the internet that can get overwhelming, so I decided to ask you for yours. Long story short, I now have a 55-gallon tank with 10 quarter-size angelfish that pair off. When these fish pair off, I have a place to put them in a 30-gallon high, or can I get away with 20-gallon longs? Also, is brine shrimp for fry a must? I've heard yes and no. I'm trying to make this as simplistic as possible and cost-effective, so maybe if I'm lucky, I can make a couple bucks. Any tips or tricks would be greatly appreciated. By the way, even if you don't talk about fish, I'd probably still listen to you guys. You guys are hilarious. Would love to get drunk in a ramble about fish someday. Until then, thanks for what you do, from New York." So, Jimmy, you're the one that has a ton of angelfish breeding experience.
Yes.
So the first question was 30 high or 20 long?
I like the 20 highs, personally, because angelfish get really tall. As your breeders get older, they usually last about 2.5, maybe 3 years for breeding, and then I usually retire them. But
An individual pair of angels in a 20 high.
Yep, that's what I like.
As a minimum.
That's what I like. I've been down to angelfish breeding facilities down in Florida, and they use 10s, but they have very young pairs in there, and they use that pair for like 6 months, and then they sell them out and start over.
Yeah, let me tell you, that's a loose term on 10 gallons because they'll use whatever container they can get a hold of. That'll
hold water.
That'll hold water.
Yeah, I saw a pair in a Mountain Dew bottle. So
that's rough.
I know.
I hope that's not true.
Now, I've tried different tanks and stuff. I personally like the 20-gallon highs, especially when you use a 20-gallon long. When they're going up and down in the slate, laying eggs and stuff, it seems that they almost kind of breach the top of the water. So I personally like a 20-gallon high. Whatever you can afford is best. I use just basically a sponge filter, a heater, and the way I get my fish to breed once they've paired off is I like to feed frozen bloodworms in the evening. And for some reason, all my fish always breed somewhere between 6 p.m. and 10 when I go to bed. And I really like that idea. I've even gotten lazy now, and we're putting in some cameras so you can watch the fish breed. So you know when they're done, you can go grab the eggs and artificially raise the eggs so they don't eat them.
Wonderful. On the second
That's right.
question, we know brine shrimp can be used for fry, but is there any alternatives that either Bentley or Alex would use for raising young angels?
Hamburger helper. No. golden pearls, I would say, but I mean, decapsulated baby brine shrimp are going to be your gold standard, in my opinion. But in theory, you could get some Artemia at very first, and some vinegar eels, or Walther worms, or whatever micro worms. But they kind of fall to the bottom, and then the babies lose interest. So really, something that swims in the water mid level and has color is what is going to draw their attention the most, in my opinion.
My opinion is that I am going to literally just spout what probably the best angelfish breeder I know has told me, which that's Dean Tweedale, who we always call Master Breeder Dean. They will eat baby brine shrimp as angelfish fry from day one. As soon as they're able to eat food, they will eat baby brine, and nothing grows an angelfish faster and healthier than baby brine. I know lots of people love to, like, I want to do a flake. I want to get away from brine because it's work, and buying a big tin of eggs is a little expensive. But if you realize how long said tin of eggs is going to last you, and a brine shrimp hatchery or a couple brine shrimp hatcheries made out of like 2-liter pop bottles, if you just do a little bit of DIY, they'll cost you maybe $5 to $6 a piece of parts and about an hour of your time if you're handy. It's so worth it in the long run. Like, baby brine is actually not expensive if you realize how much of it you can generate for that one tin of eggs, and how far it can go across not only just the fry, but it helps trigger the parents to spawn more frequently, because they think there's lots of small food available so that the babies will be able to eat. They're more likely to spawn if they know food is plentiful.
I'll give you one more tip on raising albino angelfish.
I was about to say the same thing, because that's a separate hassle that people don't understand why they're doing anything wrong.
Yeah, albino angelfish. I'm not talking about gold angelfish. I'm talking about albinos with a true pink eye. Their eyesight's so poor,
especially when they're young.
Yeah, especially
almost completely blind.
And the way to get them to eat a little bit better is to surround that entire tank in black paper to make it as dark as possible, so that they can see the brine shrimp against that black paper on the outside of their tank.
That end, like, say it's like you have a pickle jar. That's what you use. It's a 1.5 gallon-ish container, and that's where you initially like hatch baby angelfish. And if you wrap it around with black and then have a light on top, that way the brine shrimp continually go up, and they have a halfway hope to see the brine shrimp. If they can see movement, you're in the game, and they'll eat right away.
And the thing with them too, their eyesight being so poor, don't really hit them really hard with light, because that will then really confuse the hell out of them. So you got to find that happy medium of light for them to be able to see the food. But that's something that I struggled with for a long, long time. And then once I started doing the black paper around and stuff and lower lighting, it really helped me quite a bit.
The only other tricks is we always make jokes between ourselves that angelfish don't ask heaters for permission, and they just, have their way with them. So make sure to position your heater in a way that you're not encouraging them to lay on them. We do not condone heater rape.
I do.
You do?
Yeah. No.
So I always recommend putting it horizontally, a little lower in the tank. I mean, honestly, you shouldn't. There's not a lot of scenarios where you should have your heater, perfectly vertical anyway. But don't put it in a place where you're encouraging them to lay eggs on it, because they will, guaranteed.
If I have a hang on the back heater for that particular tank, I'll put 2 slates around it, so they really can't get in there and get at it. And to put 2 or 3 slates in a tank, they will find their favorite spot, and they will continuously on that same slate in that same position.
I think a lot of people breed angels and they think, yes, I'm going to get rich. These things have so many babies, and they're worth X amount of dollars. And you just remember that whatever you're raising, you're going to get 1/3 to 1/4 of the retail value in your market. So know also the stores. Do they want them grown out to adult size? Do they want nickel size? Do they want quarter, silver dollar? And, think strategically about what's going to be popular 3 to 6 months down the road. I know some places that's more applicable than others, but like here, maybe koi or the redback wild angels and things like that have been very popular, or anything with a panda in the name has been popular in all fish species. whereas and wild stuff. Whereas maybe some of the other things like smoky blues and things have kind of gone a little less popular lately. So if you know there's anyone in your area, either make sure that you're breeding more of what they are selling too many of too quickly, or you're selling something that they don't already have a source of. So
there you go.
But that's true for all fish.
I know in some of Jimmy's stores that he supplies, tiny sells faster than anything bigger.
I tell you what, first of all, you can't make any money selling an adult angelfish. You just can't, because Florida.
I agree.
Florida.
Steve Rubicki just sitting in his rocking chair going, "Wee!"
Yeah, Steve Rubicki makes money. He just sold a pair for $795 the other day.
See, that's the only way you can make money
Right.
on adult angelfish.
But to raise angelfish to an adult, I can pick up adults for $5 to $6 from Florida, and so it makes to me no sense. Adam and I used to go around back and forth and stuff. Adam loves to get small fish, raise them up to adulthood, and let them pair off. And I'm all about skipping the middleman and buying adults and letting them pair off. So best bang for my buck. And when I
you're a very impatient person.
I'd buy 6 boxes of angelfish, and they're packed 15. And so you get 90 adult angelfish, and you put them in 325 gallon tanks, and you've got pairs by the end of the week. And you can.
Oh yeah, let's just put them in my set of 300-gallon tanks.
Yeah.
That's Jimmy. That's right. That's what Jimmy does.
Have 3 or 4? What's wrong with you?
When we used to put them in, we had 300 gallon vats that we would put them in to raise them up and stuff. But I tell you what, in 30 years that I raised angelfish, I've never had a problem getting rid of black angelfish. If you can raise blacks, they're continuously, you never see them. I've been at Petco and PetSmarts all summer long. Nobody has a dark fish. I've seen like maybe a couple of marbles. All you see there is koi and silvers.
Like pure black.
Yeah. If you can do a good pure black fish, you can make some money. But if you're going to go out and sell to the pet store, you can expect to get anywhere between 50 to 75 cents for a silver, all the way up to about $1.50 for a black. And that's what they're going to pay you in cash. And then if they pay you in stored credit, that's even worse for you, because they're making money on you twice.
Well, to move on to the next topic, just to cover our last pieces. So we mentioned Steve Rubicki. He has Angels Plus.
Yes.
We talked with him. He's one of our earlier guests in one of our first episodes. Go to that. And as far as for the next one, we have Ron that messages in, says, I enjoy your podcast. You guys occasionally get to the topic. Keep up the good work.
Wow.
That was it. That's all he said. So,
and he sent this to us about 6 months ago, and so we're occasionally going to get to him.
No, it's 2 days. Actually.
Oh, really? That's pretty good for us.
Well, next one. Peter the Sunfish Guy wants to know if we know much about killies. He says, I'm thinking of getting some, you know what? Nope. I'm going to, you want to butcher that one there, Jimmy? No. Me either.
He's going to get some fancy killifish.
He's going to get some fancy killifish eggs, hatch them over Christmas. I'm going to send it to Bentley and Alex, the name, and see if they're like, oh, yeah, these ones.
Where am I looking for?
Oh, that's twice the same guy. Hold on.
Where, Rob?
So that's
I'm sending it to private message.
Pepiphilaris.
There you go.
You're just making shit up now.
I feel like you need a Latin degree to be a real good.
That's not even a Rankus. So you're doing some real weird killy,
right?
I gotta look this thing up.
Where are you guys seeing this, by the way?
I sent you a private message directly there, Alex.
Oh, okay. All right. Got it.
And I'm getting at him right now.
It's right below Pornhub.com. There. Look, Alex.
Yeah.
Not sponsored.
I wish they would sponsor.
Anyway, so he's looking to get some of these eggs to hatch over Christmas. I've read they are best in rainwater. At the moment, am I okay to catch this in a bottle and keep them till I'm ready? Or does the rainwater have to be fresh to be best? I'm looking at banana worms and Walter worms as a staple for their diet. Kind regards, the Sunfish Guy.
That's from Peter?
That's Peter.
Hey, Peter.
Peter came into the Discord chat the other day.
Did he?
And we had a good talk. We laughed about the story of the pharmacy scenario.
That was disturbing.
That was a great time. For those that didn't listen, you should go, I think, like 2 episodes back. We talked about someone putting fan mail in that got in trouble at the pharmacy for listening to our podcast.
About flower horns.
It was a good time.
Yes.
Anyways, did we find out what that is? That pretty breathtaking killifish?
It's quite pretty. It's lots of orange, a little bit of blue speckling, kind of like almost like a red turquoise discus in coloration.
Wow.
But so here's the jam on this thing, right? They're from temporary pools in floodplains. So I would argue, because it looks more like an annual killie than anything. I'm not going to read too deep and research this on the fly.
Have fun 3 months.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, honestly. And
go find the Killifish Association. Like they're free to join. They even send you free killifish when you join. But just if you really want to know, there's going to be somebody that keeps this fish, somebody that breeds this fish. There's probably several somebodies, and they'll tell you. That's your best answer. Anytime you can find any of those, like the Live Bear Association, any of those like super focused club or associations, they're going to be your best source for information about like the obscure fish. Like it's an annual killie. Treat it like an annual killie. That would be my only advice to you. And I don't keep killifish, but you can probably feed it some pretty big food right away because it's a killie.
And for those that are listening, that are beginners, killifish, there's so many different colors and varieties, and so many of them. We spoke about being annual fish. They literally have a unique characteristic where you can dry their eggs, keep their eggs on hand for X period of time,
years.
Just essentially put them back in water and hatch out live fish.
It's like instant mashed potatoes.
The reason for this is in the wild, they spawn, their small puddle pools dry up, and they need the species to last until next year. So most of these species that they talk about that are really obscure, bright colors, especially for, I'm pretty sure it's only exclusively to killifish, if I'm not mistaken. I'll probably learn to eat that later. Is a lot of these species only live 3 months because they're only intended for the summer, breed, and then once the winter comes or they dry up, the eggs are maintained throughout that season until next spring.
What's really nice about, we're going into winter. We're recording this the 1st of November. If you go on Aquabid, you can purchase different eggs from different species, and they ship very well in the cold. Whereas when you're trying to ship live fish, I just got some live fish sent up to me from Florida, got delayed, and they all froze out, and because it's pretty chilly up here. And very disappointing for myself, plus the gentleman that I bought it from. But the killifish eggs, they'll send them in the mail in an envelope. It'd be very little bit, hardly any amount of, what am I trying to say?
Effort.
Not effort, but amount of money spent on shipping.
Oh, yeah. There's no shipping cost.
Yeah,
no shipping cost. And
basically a stamp. They're going to just come in a normal envelope. They're going to be packed lightly. Yeah. It's going to be what, $3 at the post office.
And what I would do is I'd go on Aquabid and buy some eggs from somebody. And you know what? You'll develop a friendship with that person you bought those eggs from. They'll give you information on how to breed them or how to hatch them and raise them to adults. So,
and we'll certainly have an episode on killifish in the future. We've been trying to find some specialists. The thing is that there's so many different varieties. So many people keep them in cycles and then categorize eggs. There's so much to learn about each species that, like Bentley said, the clubs are so invaluable to start in, just because every species has some sort of requirement, age, time of living. It's an incredible genre, but there are long-term killies. I mean, don't let this overwhelm you that you're going to get a killifish and they're only going to last 3 months. There's others that last years.
You see people with killifish too that have like a flat in London or something, like a little studio, and they have these little Rubbermaid 1 gallon,
Oh yeah, you give them like a
tubs,
shoebox.
And they keep them. Yeah, they basically have, a wall of shoeboxes, and they have 100 species. So they're kind of cool in that way.
Keep in mind, so like the one thing I would go to the American Killifish Association, aka.org. It's super easy. That's going to help you get information. But more importantly, if you buy eggs of this fish or any of the annual killies, don't try to hatch all the eggs in one go. Talk to the person you got the eggs from. If they tell you, they'll last X period of time, try to hatch them in little batches. That way you don't accidentally lose them all in one shot. Give yourself multiple attempts at this fish before you get a proper pair raised up and can get your own eggs. Then once you get in that cycle and you get used to it, you're going to be fine. You just keep breeding them in cycles. You get your own eggs. You'll be able to do whatever you want with that fish. But don't risk the entire batch in your first shot just because of how killies are. Get used to them in small batches at first.
Oh, and killie is the Dutch word for ditch. So it means
ditch fish.
Or ditch fish. Say that 10 times fast.
So I want to go back to the prior point. Are you telling me not to put all my eggs in one basket?
Well, I mean,
it's called a hedge into your bed.
It's generally smart.
Numbnuts.
Oh, the bad jokes.
When I bring in stuff from overseas and stuff, I I just bought a bag of painted glassfish. Don't scream at me. Quit whining.
Why?
They demanded it. If not you,
I had
they have
customers that
other
wanted
people
them.
that needed them.
So 150 to a bag. I had 3 tanks, put 50 per tank just in case they didn't do well.
Horrible thing to do to fish, by the way.
And anyway, sold
Do
them
you own
all.
a time machine? Jeez.
Yeah, sold them all.
Yeah, they're still out there, and they disappear instantly. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, we talked about this before in a prior podcast. Glass fish get injected with a needle.
Nope. Hand painted.
Oh, these are the hand painted
These
ones.
are hand painted. Yes.
Oh,
Yes. And so they actually, you'll watch the paint flake off after a certain amount of time,
okay.
and then they eat it and die.
I want my fish tortured.
Yeah. So there's the two varieties
Buy yourself a flower horn.
for glass fish because glass fish can't be normally tattooed. So they have hand painted and then also injected.
The ones that people think are injected, those are the white tetras that are tissue absorbed. They put them in big Easter egg vats, and they actually absorb them through there. So most of them now are not injected because it got to be too time consuming, and they had too much trouble with different diseases.
Yeah, they amazingly don't last that long. Anyways, let's get off a depressing subject. So speaking of depressing subjects,
Politics.
it is now we're recording this on November 2nd, and I just want to put out there that 2020 has not been a great year for anyone. It has sucked royal shit. We've been stuck inside, dealing with medical conditions, fear, the whole thing, and now it's all coming to a pinnacle where you're picking between. We're going to be very agnostic about this.
2 old guys.
2 old guys that are supposed to change the world and won't. What better time to ignore it all and just treat yourselves to a bit of story time?
That was good.
For people that haven't listened to this before, we've done
Vote Nader.
vote Ralph. Don't be a hater. Excuse me, it's Kanye 2020, sir.
That's what I'm voting for.
That's the
Oh,
Ralph
George
Nader of this
Robinson.
year. Anyways, without getting political, we got 2 other episodes that we've done in the past for story time, and what we do is we gather around our virtual fireside and just have a chat. We have people that message us in the past saying that our anecdotal stories with guests and ourselves have been a lot of fun, and some of our fans have requested we just have an episode of just us telling stories, roughly about the hobby or outside of it. Some aren't about the hobby. We try to keep it closer to the hobby as much as we can, but again, this is having fun. Imagine you're cracking open a beer, you're just bullshitting around a fire. It's story time.
No dolphin stories.
No dolphins. Maybe dolphin stories.
No.
It's not off the table. But who wants to go first, gentlemen?
I'll take it.
All right.
Do it.
All you, Alex. Hit us with something great.
Well, I just figured, I'll set the bar real low so that that way, you guys have to live up to less. I thought I'd be kind.
I mean, thank you for that. You don't want to be
all right,
first. You
so-
don't want to be last.
Yeah, thanks for not going for a 3-pointer right away.
Yeah.
Just do a layup.
So, I used to work in an aquarium store. I've actually worked in 2 in my day. And the most recent one was a very nice aquarium store. It was actually an aquascaping-based store in Seattle. And it is in the part of town very close to the Children's Hospital. The Children's Hospital here is very famous for its care. They have kids from all over the country being treated for, leukemia and I don't know, whatever they treat little kids for. So I was working, and it wasn't unheard of to have, they usually would have like kind of almost like daycare for kids that are in the hospital super long term with various conditions. And so sometimes they would bring them through as like a free aquarium trip kind of thing to the store because they're only about 2 miles up the road. So they would bring them through this aquascape store and just, 3 or 4 kids at a time, like real low key. I don't think it wasn't like, hey, a field trip full of kids, but they'd bring them through the store. And one day I was working and I kind of saw that that's what was going on. I saw these 2 parents. They had a camera with them, not just like a phone, but a camera. And they were kind of like, taking pictures and kind of huddled up, kind of like, oh, look at him. Look at our son enjoying this trip. And I could see that the kid had, a hospital bracelet on his wrist and he had no hair. So I was figuring something like childhood leukemia or, something like that. So
As you would.
But
I mean, that's pretty
right.
common.
yeah, and I didn't want to, assume or say anything. It's always a kind of a touchy situation. Like, I mean, obviously just treat them normal.
Well,
So
that's what they want to be treated like. You know, you're in that spot where you look different for a day. You just want to pretend you're not dealing with it.
they are people after all. So in any case, I was standing there and I'm kind of waiting to see what they're going to do. And the kid's gone around to every tank a couple times now. He looks at the big square tank we have, and it happened to be for sale, which was lucky because usually stuff wasn't for sale in there. But the very first thing he says is, I want this Oscar. Can we get this Oscar? And I was like, oh, okay, I get it. So I'm thinking in my head, they're setting this kid up an aquarium. And in my head, I'm like, I don't want to be super negative, but I'm thinking what's like an easy setup for the parents, easy fish, peaceful fish. And like, I mean, am I an awful person for thinking like maybe it shouldn't be something that lives super long, or you have to wait a super long time for it to do something cool? So I was kind of, thinking, I don't know, rainbow fish or angel fish or, I don't know, something pretty. And he picks a full-grown Oscar that was there as like a rehome. And I was like, okay, all right. Yeah, it's for sale, but these guys aren't very nice, bud. They don't get along with any other fish, really. How big of a tank are we looking for? And the parents are like, he can have whatever he wants.
Oh,
And
one
I
of
was
those
like, oh.
parents.
Yeah, well, and I think it was more of a like, this is serious.
Oh,
You know what
like
I mean?
it's like a Make-A-Wish thing. Like, he'll
Exactly.
get whatever he wants.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right. It wasn't like
Yeah.
mom going into Walmart saying, I'm going to get Saints Row 4 for my kid, and he gets what he wants. Not like that.
No, it's not the kid running down the aisle with his arms stretched out and the cereal all knocks down.
Right.
Because this child's so sick he can't run.
Like, you got the point real quick.
Yeah, arms are gone. So he comes in, and I at first I'm like, okay, well, let's look at some other options first. How about that? And he's like, okay. And the kid actually knew like the Latin names. This kid's probably 9 to 11. I don't know how old. Not super young. Not a teenager though. Not a preteen. Well, I guess that is preteen, but whatever. I don't know kids. He was yay big. So
You're not. He's not a child wrangler.
You weren't focused on measuring the child. You were just in the moment trying to satisfy a mom that needed fish at the moment.
A Make-A-Wish program.
Right.
Well, I try not to be that creepy all the time. So I don't carry a measuring tape for children with children-size increments on
Right.
it,
Right.
So yay big child is in there, and I'm like, okay, well, how about these angelfish? We could get you set up with maybe, and in that store, they don't have rimless or anything. So I'm like, do you guys have a tank? And they're like, it doesn't matter what the cost is. How about like that display tank? This is an ADA rimless tank with an 800 ADA, like pendant light, $800 light over it, and CO2 injection. And I mean, just like the works. And so I was like, are we going all in with this? I mean, this is probably going to require some parental help, right? And they're like, yeah, we'll pay you guys to come out and set it up. It doesn't matter, whatever. We don't, whatever, okay?
So I'm assuming this wasn't like a Petco. They were like willing to come to a store, get help, maintenance, the whole thing.
Right. And so that's when I was like sure that I was like, okay, we're dealing with a kid that's going to pass away probably, or they're thinking he could. And this is like Make-A-Wish, because there were there were a couple adults with them, like a nurse of some sort and maybe some Make-A-Wish person. I don't know.
Rough.
And another administrator. And they were documenting the whole thing clearly, like taking pictures and little video.
And pictures of him being a dick.
What did you say?
Pictures of him being a dick to this kid.
Oh, no.
That's why I didn't get out my measuring tape. I already told you.
That's right.
He goes over to the gourami tank, and he's like, I want to get a male gourami. And I was like, okay, why don't we go with a female? The powder blues or the honeys, they're really good. We could set you up with the 90p tank is what we ended up going with. And we squared it away so they had it's basically like a 40-gallon tank, rimless in the end with a stand and everything. I mean, they were going to put probably $2,000 into this whole setup when everything was said and done, I would guess. Bentley, you think that's about right for
Sounds
that
pretty fair
stuff?
for ADA.
Yeah. So for those of you who are used to the Petco $1 per gallon sale, that's not what this was about. And so, working at a store like that, your mindset is in a certain way, and so just keep that in mind as I finish this off here. So the kid is dead set on it. So I was like, okay, well that's good. Let's get lots of plants in there then, so that we can keep the female or so we can keep the female away from the males. We can keep littler fish, if you pick littler fish out, away from the gouramis. And he's like, okay, whatever. And he's just kind of ignoring me, the kid. And I'm like, okay, well, all right, he knows what he wants. So he goes over, and next he wants an angelfish. And I was like, okay, good. An angelfish, we can work with this. And the next thing he wants are some shrimp. And I was like, well, who doesn't want shrimp? But, they're going to get eaten. And I try to tell him nicely, I'm like, hey, bud, these are really cool. And, we could stick with small little fish. Nano fish are really cool. We could do a bunch of fish. And he's like, no, I want 20 shrimp, red ones. And I was like, okay. And so, I mean, in my head too, I was like, wow, this is going to be a big sale. But cool. I mean, that'll look good for me. That's fine. But in my head, this kid's picking out some expensive stuff that's probably, going to get.
It's what we call expensive treats.
Yes. Yeah. It's expensive snacks, $10 snacks, essentially. So then next thing, goes over and picks out a Honduran red point cichlid and says, these are cool. And I'm like, okay, bud, yeah, those are great live bears. But with the angel and the gourami, I think that maybe we should. And the parents just give me this death glare. Like, you're denying our son his last wish.
They're just sitting there like, will you shut up, please? And just let us get what he wants.
I would be adding on to this sale so much.
Yeah, Jimmy, he'll just turn off the morals. He'll be like, how about some goldfish? You want a stingray in there? You want a
stingray?
Well,
you're being a good fish keeper.
And I was like, do you want to see any of your fish breeding, or are we just into watching them, or what do you want? And everyone's just, it's so dismissive. And I was like, okay, well, he's a kid. Maybe I'm assuming too much of him. And so he goes around, he picks out some filler fish, some neon tetras and a few other things that are just kind of like group fish. But then we had, it was in the back and it hadn't sold, which was weird because everyone wanted them, but a betta macrostoma, which is the largest betta, and they're very expensive.
Aren't those the ones that they commonly use in like illegal fighting trades, Jimmy?
Correct.
Yeah.
In fact, like they're more popular than like quote unquote Siamese fighting fish bettas, you know?
The last one I saw was one that you ordered, and it was like what, $4?
Some of it can be really expensive.
They were crazy, and the one that you got did not look pretty.
They're ugly usually.
Like they're just a massive beta.
And they love shrimp, so you should have sold them 50 shrimp.
Yeah. Well, and so I'm like, all right, well, hey bud, this fish actually gets like probably 8 inches long at least, and it's a really mean fish. It was already probably 4 inches long. It was a male, and I think the female had died, and that's why we still had it, and we were trying to sell them as a pair for a while or something. But the kid looks at me, and I'm like, hey, buddy, this fish is actually going to kill your other fish. And he goes, good.
Oh, my God.
I want them to fight.
So
and
the kid flips on a switch and turns into Lex Luthor?
Well, I just kind of stood there, and the parents clearly heard him, and I was like, oh, okay. And then I started thinking about his choices, and it all came to me. I was like, this kid is making Thunderdome in the most expensive tank possible, and that's exactly what a 10-year-old boy is going to do.
Oh, absolutely.
If you tell them they can do anything. So I was like, all right, let's get that Oscar boxed up. You want some bettas too? And so we got a couple bettas for him, and they literally bought the stuff, and they headed out. So I guess don't judge a book by its cover.
No.
And please don't give PETA my contact information.
And I also realized what I did, and I wanted to apologize. I did not mean to make fun of a boy with cancer. The Lex Luthor joke was not because he was bald. So
it's because he had superpowers.
It's because he had superpowers.
You guys are such dicks.
So wait. I got a couple follow-up questions here. So
No follow-up.
I'm just going through this whole like walkthrough. You're going through, I want some of those. I want some of those. Are you bagging and tagging as you're going through, or are you just writing this down?
No, it was more of like a consultation at that store. If it wasn't busy, it was like I was going to round it all up later because I thought for sure parents are going to step in here when I'm saying very clearly, hey, bud, trying to be nice. Like,
sure,
let's try to pick something smarter, and I've got that dumb voice on.
That is the craziest Make-A-Wish thing I've ever heard of. Like, I've heard of like...
It must not have been real Make-A-Wish or something.
Right. Like a Ryan Reynolds thing pops up. You figure that'd be on a kid's list, but no. Thunderdome in an aquarium. So did you go around being like, you know what'd be great? These things just, when they get hit by some, the scales just spoof all over the place and they're nice and shiny.
As tempting as it is to say that or to make the story sound like that, like I really did try to be like, hey, that's not how I like to treat fish. I did actually have a moment like that. But in my head, I'm like, is this immoral? What am I supposed to do? Like, I don't know what the right thing to do is.
That is the perfect impasse. You're sitting there between probably cancer child on his last months, days, who knows how long, versus ethical treatment of animal. I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't think there's an answer either way, honestly.
The first thing
there is. You don't sell the fish.
See, Adam's had a store of his own, and he clearly just, tells cancer patients to leave all the time.
See, I would have sold him piranhas.
That would have go over really well in the local media.
Right?
We tried to sell a beautiful setup to our son.
Pet store denies cancer patient.
Yeah.
I was thinking that you're getting punked,
Oh, well, that would be a great punk. Just Alex sitting there like, I don't know. And you just
I never did get a follow-up on any of that. So I felt like I should have. Like somebody would have called and been like, hey, can we return this stuff?
You ever feel like you're on that show, What Would You Do? That they have on NBC? It's kind of like a Dateline.
Yeah. Right.
What would you do?
That was one of the moments in my life that's exactly what I felt like. I was like, when are the people going to come out with, balloons and stuff now? Because this is real weird. I may have embellished how bloodthirsty the child was. He may have just acknowledged that he knew that there would be conflict.
Yeah, who knows? You really can't read someone's mind. But that's a rough one. That's that funny but rough.
Fight Club.
Don't talk about Fight Club.
Stop talking about Fish Club.
It does exactly. Don't talk about it.
So while I was in college, my cousin and I lived together. And a group of our friends, we had started telling them a story about a tank that we had. So we had a 55-gallon bow front, and he wanted to do South American predatory cichlids. So we had like a Jack Dempsey, a Red Devil, and the Dempsey basically picked fish that it allowed to live in the tank. So if something lived for 2 or 3 days, usually it got to stay. An example would be we had a group of bala sharks. He let one live. And that one, every time one of the two humans it knew walked past the tank, would jump out of the top.
Get me the hell out.
Down onto the tile. No. At that point, we just thought it was some kind of ply for attention because it was only when we walked past, never jumped out of the tank whenever we weren't in front of it. It was very much, I'm going to jump out like a torpedo, slam into the slate that's down low. So it eventually probably bashed itself extra stupid.
You figure you get a lid sometime in the middle of this.
Well, that was the problem.
They're in college
kids. We were going to spend the money on
beer.
A lid. We had better things to buy, like, I don't know, food,
ramen.
Eventually you get enough beer cans, you just float them. So there's no room.
That's not a bad idea.
I like that, Alex.
I want a picture of that shit if someone's done that.
We go to a party with some friends, and one of the friends who is not a direct friend of ours, but is an acquaintance of our overall social group, is one of the roommates that's hosting this place. And they have this big 125-gallon tank with one red belly piranha in it. And they're talking all this stuff about how aggressive their piranha is and how you should kill all sorts of stuff. It's a piranha. And it's very clear they're not an aquarist, right? And at this point, I've been keeping fish since I was like 5. I know a little bit more. Not a lot, but enough. And so they're going like, that fish is not that scary. Piranhas are only scary in groups. You got one piranha. My Jack Dempsey at home will murder this thing. It won't even be close. They're like, no, there's no way. It's a piranha. And I'm like, just, okay, yeah, you believe whatever you want. It's like, yeah, I put goldfish in this all the time. And I'm like, how long is the goldfish in there before it gets hit? It's like, oh, I'll put it in there, and by the next day it's gone. It's like, we put a live fish in the tank with our Jack Dempsey, and it's literally within 30 seconds. It's mean. It's named after one of the meanest boxers in history for a reason.
Muhammad Ali?
Gary Coleman?
You need to get out of the
Gary Coleman, yes.
get out of the corner.
So,
I love the Coleman.
needless to say, later on, we host a party. And what we didn't know until it was too late. So this person, we're doing all this stuff, and like I used to DJ in college. So like I'm running music. We got friends running a small bar. We're just all having a blast, right? Up until said person comes running up to me, goes, just like your damn fish, blah blah blah. I'm like, and I'm really not paying attention. I got like headphones on. I'm trying to do work music and stuff. I'm like, what do you mean my damn fish? It's like, it's like finally I get one of my friends who I've taught how to use my equipment to run my equipment for a little bit and go over to the fish tank. And there's this red belly piranha missing its like throat section in one clean bite, just floating. And then I see a little bucket down on the floor by the stand. I'm like, what the hell did you do? Like, well, I brought my piranha over because I wanted to see if it was tougher than your fish.
Oh my God.
Like, you brought your red belly piranha to my house in a bucket, and then without even asking me, put it in my tank with Captain Jack in Captain Jack's pirate ship, and you thought this was cool. It's like, well,
I think it's cool.
a piranha.
Can you imagine him getting pulled over driving with a bucket?
And what happened to your piranha?
Oh.
Well, I put him in the tank, and like maybe a minute passes, he's swimming around trying to figure out what's going on, and all of a sudden the thing comes out of that little broken pirate ship like a missile and just chomps into its throat and then swims away and goes back and hides. It's like, it's not hiding. It just murdered what it needed to murder because get off my lawn. It's a Jack Dempsey, you moron.
We're going to call this episode Storytime 3 Fish Fight Club.
And I have to tell this story. I would have told a different story if it wasn't for like the little kid wanting to create Thunderdome in his tank, because it reminded me of like, oh, well, I guess I could tell that story.
Honestly,
it puts the lotion in the bucket.
Puts the piranha in the bucket.
I remember this very specific. I'm sitting there going like, okay, get your piranha out of my tank before it causes some issues. Like, so you're gonna buy me a replacement fish, right?
Are you serious?
Yeah.
The guy had the nuts to ask you, like, well, can you owe me?
Oh yeah. And I finally looked at him. I go like,
you get out of my house.
So here's the deal: you can take the fish out of the tank, go throw it out in the garden,
Go fluke yourself.
or put it in your car, or I can make you do it. And if I make you do it, you're gonna eat it. And it was like, I've always been a big dude.
I'm just imagining the whole, like, you're in DJ garb telling someone that you're going to, like, basically be a bouncer or make them eat fish. Like, that's intimidating stuff.
I couldn't believe it. And so finally they're like, okay, do you have a net? I didn't bring a net.
I'd make him go bobbing for apples in the tank.
You're going to raw dog that stuff, man.
Yeah.
That's like, it's dead. Grab it with your hand.
Quickly.
What about your fish? Oh, don't worry. It won't bite your hand. I don't think so, at least.
He's probably full from the piranha.
The dude's like creeped out.
But it's like, but it just like bit my piranha that fast. I'm like, yeah, I know. I feed that fish by hand. It doesn't ever bite me, but it doesn't know you.
You smell like bacon
Get your
and
fish
grease.
out of my tank. And of course, like the act's kind of scared. The fish doesn't do anything. It just sits there knowing like, you can't have anything in my tank. This is my damn house. Get out of here. I couldn't believe the audacity of someone like, don't even talk to a person. Just bring your stupid piranha over in a bucket. And let's just throw it in your fish tank and see what happens.
College.
Drunk college idiots.
I love alcohol.
I'm surprised you could have a fish tank in college. I had some, and there was beer in it the first night anyone came over.
So we didn't throw parties. So like it should be referenced that like typically where parties were thrown was in this massive garage that's attached to this house that we were in.
Right, but people are idiots, and you're not going to like lock doors.
You'd be surprised.
Okay, Minnesota.
Okay, but you bitch, yeah.
And more importantly, like we normally, like he worked at a Petco, right? So he could afford a fish tank because he had a massive discount at Petco. during the time. The only thing he wanted was to have predatory cichlids in a tank. That was his jam at that time. He didn't want anything else. And that particular fish murdered nearly anything he put in there, like tinfoil barbs, bala sharks, a silver arowana. Like, it just was absolutely what you'd expect out of any given Jack Dempsey. It was mean.
I feel like everybody like has some sort of like fish story where something accidentally happened in some ways, but I never have a guy that put the effort into it. Like, hey, Bentley's throwing a party. You know what? I'm going to dump some shit in his fish tank and see if he wants to talk smack later. Like, that's some sort of like, maybe I was really drunk or high. You know, like, what's the reasoning behind
That's
it?
the problem.
Both.
But like the person was pretty notorious for being a stoner back in the day, so I suppose that
Maybe.
makes sense.
Man, you know, it'd be sweet if my piranha beat up Bentley stuff. Like, that'd be cool. He's talking all this shit.
Now, 15 years later, you take your child over there to beat the shit out of his kid.
Go. Oh, that's something else. You don't do it like, if people are listening, you're not one of those aquarium people. Imagine taking your dog to another dude's party and they fight just because you want to be a dick. Like, that's the same level of what we're talking about here. Like, it's stupid. It's downright stupid. But Adam, what you got for a story for us, bud?
Well,
Also, before you start, I want to point out that you're a trooper. You're wearing your old pet store t-shirt. So old vintage swag I love.
do you guys want to hear about the time that I found something very, very venomous, or the time I got questioned by the DNR?
Question by the DNR. DNR. All day
Okay.
long.
Because we're going to have the DNR on again here
Yes,
shortly.
We actually got them booked. We got Mandy coming back on to talk to us about sunfish. So what better time than now?
So we'll give her your personal information when we see her.
I do not need her. They already dealt with it.
Okay, good.
They've already dealt with it.
It's been 7 years. You don't have to worry about it.
It's been like
Never
12,
been
but whatever.
convicted of a
All right.
felony.
Story.
Okay, so it's walleye opener in northern Minnesota, and it's Lake Pokegama. And you know what fishing opener is in northern Minnesota? Everybody goes to the lakes.
Literally bigger than 4th of July.
Yeah, it's a pretty big thing, and it's always, you know how it's always like cold, wet, and rainy in Minnesota on fishing opener.
Yeah,
It's never
the worst.
sunny. Half the time it's snowing, and it's just shitty out. The DNR came to my store on a Sunday. This is when I was open Saturday and Sunday. Fishing opener Saturday. They came to my store on Sunday and they looked at my tank. And Jim knows my store layout, and I had my feeder goldfish in the front of my store. And they see it, and it's just full of feeder goldfish and rosy reds and everything.
Right, and the reason you do that is because in Minnesota it's cold, and that door is going to hit all the cold breezes, and you want your cold water fish hitting that, not warm.
Yeah. So it's just all my cold water fish are in the front of the store. This DNR officer comes in and they go, can I talk to you for a few minutes? I'm like, oh shit, what? And I'm like running through my head. What do I have that's illegal? What do I need to, I'm just trying to make sure I didn't have anything bad.
What snake did I bring in?
This time.
Who did I sell that one octopus to?
Yeah, that was before the octopus. Like, I literally only had my store for like 6-8 months. I think Jim knows about this one because I called him like right afterwards and he just laughed at me.
I feel like
He's
there's
a
a
very
lot of scenarios
supportive
that's
guy.
happened in your guys' past. Do continue.
So this DNR guy's questioning me about my feeder fish, and he's like, why do you carry feeder fish? I see you have them and da da da. And I'm like, yeah, there's no problem with me carrying feeder fish. It's legal. I buy them from my vendors. I bring them up here, and they're just to feed other fish or, little kids for first pet, cycle fish tanks, that type of stuff. Well, apparently they had arrested a guy because he was the only guy catching fish on Lake Pokegama with using feeder goldfish as fishing bait.
Lovely.
So they couldn't figure out why one guy in the whole damn lake was catching fish because it's shitty, super cold. Well, he took all the bright gold ones, and they want to know if he bought them from me, but I think he bought them from Walmart because I sure as hell didn't know who the guy was.
That's what we'll stick to that. Yeah, Walmart.
We'll stick with that because I wouldn't have sold. Okay, let's put it this way. I would not have sold them
Knowingly.
to the guy if I would have known that he was going to use them for bait.
Well, you
What if
can't
he had
stop
cancer?
someone's intent. I mean, I'm not going to stop selling someone spray paint just because they're going to go vandalize something. They're not telling me. They're of 18, 21, whatever it's required.
Yeah, so the guy, I get the story from the DNR. Basically, they drive their boat over because he's the only one catching fish. and they check his boat. And as they're pulling up to his boat, he's reeling in a walleye with a goldfish hanging out of its mouth. Done.
Yeah, you lose like some of the punishments they do in Minnesota. Like you lose your fishing license, you get a fine. Dependent on the invasive species, it's jail time in some scenarios for hunting violations and whatnot.
Drift and push you out into a lake. Is that not what they do?
No.
They wait for the summer and let the mosquitoes eat you to death.
Right, the Hunger Games edition.
So, I was told by the DNR guy that it was $10,000. It was a $10,000 fine for the fish that he pulled out of the lake.
Whoa!
It was $1,000 for every goldfish on his boat. He was double over the legal limit of walleye for opener. So they just basically arrested him and confiscated everything. Brand new truck, brand new boat, his fishing rods, his hunting license, everything. He was done. But I'm like, so why are you guys bugging me? Well, we were just confirming, trying to figure out where he bought these from. I'm like, so you came to the one store. I said to him, if I'd have known that he had these, and I didn't hear anything afterwards, but that was the time I was questioned by the DNR. And I was like shitting myself.
I call that profiling.
Thank you, Jim. I appreciate that.
Maybe you shouldn't wear that on your head then.
So for those that are listening, you can watch us. We got at least Jim and I on the stream. Otherwise, we're on Discord. Go to aquariumguyspodcast.com. On the bottom of the website, you can join these live. This is a Monday night at 7 p.m. We start these Central Time. And Adam has a particular mic that he actually puts a blanket over his head. So
I bought the mic you told me to buy, and I think you did this on purpose so that I fit your racial profiling ideas.
Well, I didn't know you'd have such echo problems, but
I think he's like hotboxing himself with farts.
If you guys want to help out Adam, you can donate at the bottom of the podcast as well. And
buy him a new blanket.
Send us a note that it's for Adam's new mic, and we'll get him set up.
Did you? I heard Sarah McLachlan there for a little bit.
Hey, that's copyrighted. No, this is a rendition.
There we go.
We're on YouTube now. I've only had 80 million copyright strikes.
I saw that when you were uploading them.
Fluke YouTube.
I was like, welcome to my world, Rob.
You can suck on my fat gonopodium, YouTube.
You know, it's funny when Adam tells that story. My just real quick, just isn't my story. My 7-year-old Aaron
doesn't get 2 stories.
No, I run this damn place.
You pay the bills.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
pay the bills. I'm not even wearing pants right now.
Oh, thank God.
But my 7-year-old, him and his Aaron and his buddy Austin were bringing home 2.5-3 pound rock bass off the dock about 3 blocks from our house and stuff, and nobody else was catching anything too. And then I asked Aaron, I said, "How are you catching these things?" I go, "Oh, it's my secret." And then the next day I catch them taking, I had probably 1,000 feet of goldfish, and they're down there with their little net and bucket, and they're 7 years old, and they're down there catching them with goldfish. And I said to him, I said, "You can't do that." I said, "The DNR is gonna put you in jail." He looks at me straight in the eye and goes, "No, they're not. I'm not a little kid."
He knows what's up.
I'm a little kid.
We just got on the news, and we were discussing this yesterday, me and Jim, about how they pulled 50,000 goldfish out of a lake in Minnesota.
Out of a pond.
So
out of a pond, yeah.
They showed the picture of it. It was a freaking pickup load.
Yes.
Yeah, it was the back of a pickup, full to the top of the pickup.
This is on the lake called Chaska in Minnesota. October 26th, they did a big netting procedure, and it's thousands, potentially estimated over 50,000 goldfish just in the first netting. Now, first
carp or goldfish?
Goldfish. Yes, very much goldfish. I'll be sure to actually add the link to you guys here in Discord. It and that's based upon their estimate of just a handful of goldfish being let loose in the lake. They really do overtake environments because they breed so fast in batches in the summer that they overtake. It's so detrimental. It's not just a fish getting in there and overtaking food, but carp really do destroy bottoms of waterways and just completely dirty and stop other fish from even breeding. All the habitats get destroyed. So don't put any fish
destroy my bottom.
Don't have any fish from aquarium ever go into a natural waterway. Contact your DNR local rescue. I mean, heck, give us a call. We'll find someone in your area
to release it for you.
Right. But yeah, Jimmy, you want to give us a real story?
A real story?
Yeah.
I've got a real story. It's about My two stories tonight are both from the same location. I started out with my location in Detroit Lakes, Minnesota. I now live in Perm, Minnesota, which is about 20-mile difference. So I worked for a mortgage company, and the guy that owned the mortgage company said, "Hey, I got this extra building over here if you want to rent it," because I was talking about expanding my fish business at that time. And I said, "Sure, let's go take a look at the building." So on our lunch break, he took me over to this building, and it was actually a pretty nice building. And he shows me 2 apartments above, but the whole bottom, he said I could have for $200. And I want to say it was probably about 2,500 square feet. It was pretty good size. And in the very back, there's like a kitchen area. And he says, "Yeah," he said, "this would work great for your fish business." He goes, I already have to heat the building because I have 2 renters upstairs. He goes, "So you'll get free heat." He goes, "Just pay your electricity bill down here and you'll be fine."
And not just heat. Like, you could make that basement, heat the room for tanks heat.
Yeah, this is in Frazee.
Right. Oh, okay.
This is in Frazee. You've never seen this one before.
I haven't seen this one. Okay, I thought you were referring to the other one.
No, so to explain, when you walked into the building, you had to use your key to walk into the building, and then you locked the building up behind you. And then there was steps that went upstairs to the apartments. And then there was 2 swinging doors that went into my area, and they had a curtain on the outside for privacy. I moved over there. I was really excited. I went from about 300 tanks to about 600 tanks in a short time. Had about 600 aquariums in this place. And every once in a while, you would hear, the people upstairs walking around. Well, one night, I'm probably there about 6:30, 7 o'clock at night, because I hear a noise, and I look and I see an old woman peering through the window. I mean, takes her fingers, pulls the curtain back, looks in, gives me a kind of a gentle grandmother type smile, and then the curtain went back.
This is getting creepy.
Yeah.
And it went away.
That's it.
And anyway, so...
And they're going to be like, "This house is haunted. There's no one been in there for 20 years.
And so, as we go on, this happens not once, but several times over the next 2-3 weeks. And I said to Pat, who owned the building, I said, one of your renters keeps peeking in on me. I said, one of these days I'm going to be sitting there with my shirt off, because it was hot in there. I'd take my shirt off. And I said, she's probably try to get a glimpse of these, massive pecs and biceps.
Oh, clearly.
Yeah. And he goes, "Describe this person." So I described this person. He goes, I go, "Is it one of the renters?" He goes, "No, there's 2 guys that rent the upstairs."
Oh, no.
And I said, "So who is this?" He goes, "That's Sarah." I said, "Oh." I said, "Who is Sarah?" And he goes, "Well," he said, "we embalmed her there at the old funeral home about 25 years ago."
No, done. No.
I'm renting a goddamn funeral home, and I didn't know it. And I about went, "What the hell?"
I didn't mean to predict this, by the way. I've never heard this story before. So
I've
that
never
was me.
shared this with anybody other than my wife.
No.
And so anyway...
This just became Halloween edition.
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
A little late there, Jimmy.
Okay, here's the interesting part, guys. So towards the back...
That wasn't interesting?
Oh, that was interesting as hell. But in the back, where the kitchen area is, that's where I used to go back there and cut my beddings and stuff. And I kept all my goldfish in back because it was much colder. Well, that was the freaking embalming room. So I'm in the embalming room. And so after he explains this to me, then I started going,
oh, yeah, it's real cheap. Rent's real cheap. We heat for you. Don't worry about it.
That explains the freaking shadows. And we would see shadows, from lights and stuff. And so finally, I get to meet the 2 guys that live upstairs. And they went, "Oh, yeah, dude. You wouldn't believe the crap that goes on in this place." And I'm like, "I'm out of here." And they went, "Oh, you get used to it." I'm going, "Oh, hell no. Hell no." So, yeah. So Sarah was somebody they embalmed 20 years ago and never really left.
I'm just trying to put myself in the homeowner situation, right? He's got a bad reputation. He knows it's a funeral home. He's got basically the place paid for from the apartments above. So why wouldn't you? If you're a wealthy guy, you're retired, why wouldn't you like to screw with someone? Someone comes to their place, be like, $200 a month.
I work for this man.
All right. Even better. I'm saying that's why. Even better. He's got the money. He's got the time, right? So he's like, $200 a month, Jimmy. And then what he does is he takes that $200, hires an old lady
to come peek in on
you, and then does creepy things to you on purpose to see how long you take it. I'm just saying, if I had the money, there's nothing stopping me from, screwing with
Renting
you
old
on
women.
that. Right. So the only thing I would do is $200 wasn't enough to flash you.
Oh.
That would have been
And so here, so there's a basement
Wait.
to this place. There's a basement to this place. Never been down there. My kids at the time are probably 10, 12 years old. And they came upstairs really excited. Go, God, you got to come down here and check this out. It's really cool.
Daddy, Grandma Sarah made cookies.
No. I went down there and looked at the display of children's caskets.
No, they still had the crap in the building?
Still had children's
Adorable.
caskets downstairs.
I am convinced. This man, your quote-unquote friend, you worked with him, he's there. He's fluking with you, bro.
Oh, man.
That's-
So that was story number one about this building. Now that we're kind of just past Halloween and stuff. But yeah, and I was there probably another 2-3 months and I couldn't get out of there fast enough.
But did they have the concrete sealers that they used to bury him in? Because those are just free fish ponds.
Yeah, you know what? I wish they would have. I would have used them too.
We're in Minnesota. We don't have to worry about flooding up here, really, so we don't have concrete sealers. That's more of a South thing.
No, my mom and dad both had concrete.
Really?
Yep.
I have yet to see one in person besides going down south.
Oh, no, they require them. The state of Minnesota requires you to have
Where?
them. You have to when the burial vault is put in the ground and then the casket's put in there and then it's both sealed.
Telling you, last 3 funerals. I was with the graveside ceremonies. Dirt.
The last 3 funerals you went to was probably where you flushed your fish down the toilet. Dumbass.
I just want to know more, and we can have people look up. You should find out Sarah's real identity.
No, I don't want to know.
And then we can have people send us creepy information, being
if I had Jen on this thing, we saw our first ghost here in Perm the first year we lived when we went on that bicycle path out here.
Maybe she just wanted to do the fish death battle with you.
Yeah.
I feel like we had a phone call there for a minute.
It was Sarah.
Adam, no more text messages. Well, I know what to do now for future pranks.
Yeah, you definitely should because now that I own
Punch him, Jim.
now that I own handguns,
Future pranks.
Oh, that's even better. Yeah, I forgot about that.
just start shooting through the door
All right, so I got one, and
like
I
the
was
police.
I convinced myself that I needed to tell something because you'd never told anyone that, right? I'm going to share a story that, for legit reasons, I have never really told anyone. I don't think even my wife knows the story.
Can I interject real quick before we start?
Please, we need something to break this up.
So speaking about handguns and fish,
Please.
And fish.
one, it's real hard to shoot a fish in a barrel. I don't know if you guys have tried, but it's hard. So I was in Texas, real quick.
Cherry
I was in
bomb.
All
Texas.
you.
We had fished all day, and we were trying. Everyone owns a pond in Texas. If they have a ranch, everyone owns a pond, and everyone puts bass in the pond. And apparently, it's so easy because these fish are just in there and huge, and nobody cared because it's all old people in my family that live down in southeast Texas. But they left us down there. We're bored. I'm like 19 or 20 years old or whatever. No, wait. I must have been 21 because I'm sure I was legal. Sure. Let's say 21.
Yeah, he was 21. Definitely.
Definitely.
Yes, I was 21.
Still not old
And
enough to
I've
know
been
better.
out there all day. had
Wait.
sunburn,
This
and
is
I've been trying
Texas.
to catch fish.
You're 14. You're legal in Texas. Don't worry about it.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah. So I've been at this lake all day and trying to catch fish. I hadn't caught a single thing, no bites. I was convinced there weren't any fish in the lake. So we'd been drinking and sitting there, and it was getting dark. I pulled out my pistol and I fired a whole magazine into the lake, just randomly, like a belligerent, Keanu Reeves or something.
No.
In Point Break.
No.
But literally,
no.
a bass comes floating up, and it just floats up to the top. I have a picture of it still. I can probably upload it later tonight. But I was like, are you kidding me? I hit a fish in this entire pond. I hit a fish with a bullet out of like 9 or 10 of them.
That is
Whatever, however many I
literally,
fired.
the odds of that are astounding because, bullets don't exactly travel perfect in water either, and they quickly dissipate their velocity. So you hitting that is like real something else. It's like shooting into the air and randomly hitting a crow in the sky. Just
And there's probably 2 dead mermaids on the bottom of that pond too. That didn't float to the top.
Well, you should see the neighborhood just on the other side of the lake. Oops. Bullet skip.
oops.
No, it was in the middle of nowhere.
Well, thank goodness. No, that your fishing skills are very mixed with a
My
bullet.
shooting skills are very high, though.
Clearly. So, note to self: don't mess with Alex. All right. So
If you're underwater,
especially if you're underwater. If you're in open air, you're fine. But if you're in water, don't do that. So, anyways, my story I have not told to anybody, right? I'm pretty sure anybody, yeah. So I talked about it on one of our last podcasts that I was a single child, right? I'm not a normal person. This personality
We know that.
didn't come out of a box.
Yeah, there's a point where people just give up, and that's what your parents did.
Right. So at the points where they give up, they see the kid, burning ants with a magnifying glass type thing. No, I'm kidding. I, as an immature child, was obsessed with farts. Right. So that's your preface. Now
You
You're
still
still
are.
obsessed with farts.
Yeah.
farts are the
Yeah, what's
funniest thing.
changed?
If I could shit my pants right now on command, I'd do it just for the listeners because farts are the best thing ever. Now,
I think you're confusing your bodily functions.
confusing.
It's not called a fart.
Sure. So,
And
growing up, I've told people on the podcast that I got into fish at a very young age. I grew up with my grandmother breeding all different types of fish, all different types of betas. She was the first person I've ever saw that had 40 betas and male betas in one tank that didn't fight because she grew them up together and for some reason figured that out, that matrix out somehow. She had huge tanks. I still have a couple of her books with handwritten notes. And getting into the hobby at a very young age, I had a couple tanks in the house here and there at all times. And I lived on a lake, so sometimes I'd have a tank where I'd have just temporary fish for a couple days, put them back out in the water humanely, or I just keep tropical fish at all times. And there's always fun aquarium accessories. Like my grandmother gave me some of the first clock timers. They're literally a clock motor with the auto feeder on it. So a lot of cool products, but the fun things is the power of some of those antique whisper pumps, the air pumps. Right. I was just amazed with it. And it was a best toy getting a bunch of old rattly burnt out air pumps for my grandmother because she gave me a lot of fish accessories. Right. I still have one of these whisper pumps from it's you look at it and it's 40 years old. It's incredible. So I will play with them. I go plug them in outside, see if I could, make milk chocolate with mud in the dirt outside because why not? You blow a straw in milk, turn it chocolate milk. Why can't I play with it outside? So I was trying to find new fun, inventive ways to play with the air pumps that I got. And I just love it's hard for me, Jimmy. Don't look at me like that. There's going to be a whole lot of judgmentalness in the room here. But being an 8-9-year-old kid, farts are the best. So I decided to take...
I just knew it was going in that direction.
I'm
I'm going to leave the building for just a
at
minute.
8 years old, I decided to take the air pump and just see what it would do if I, squeeze it in my arm.
Where?
No, give me time, all right? This is don't judge me. I was 8, so I put it in the armpit. Sure enough, I make fart noises. Raspberry out. Put it in my belly button. Raspberry out. I was giggling myself. I didn't have a brother or sister to make fun of me. I could have used one at this time in my life, and this escalated to fart noises. I'm like, I wonder. And I took that and well. But where the sun don't shine just a little bit. And it was enough to collect a little bit of air where I could go run out in the living room and then fart loudly in front of my parents' television. So I thought
This was silence falls throughout the room.
I feel all your judgment and you can all go fluke yourself. All right. I was 8. I was creative. This is my body. And I thought farts were cool. So I would do this, right? And my parents...
There's more to this story?
There is more to this story.
God help me.
So my poor parents, I'm their only child, right? So I run out and I try to pretend they could see my cheeky face. I made a grin and then I just go in. I'd lift my leg or I do the whole bend over backwards, like the Jim Carrey movies and was it Ace Ventura, and pretend to talk with my butt and fart, right? So anything I could do to cue up a fart. So if I thought it was a funny moment for a fart, like my parents are being serious with a family member or a friend, I come out and just rip my ass. And I learned a lesson one day that there's appropriate amount of air to put in your derriere. And there's no PSI pressure thing like a tire So one day, my parents were watching a really serious movie. I think it was like a Nazi documentary or something, because my mom loved history and stuff. She always watched World War II stuff. And I go out, they're being all serious, like, "Oh, Robbie, knock it off." And I go out, I think I almost rupture my colon with this huge bottle of air. I release it.
It's like prolapse problems going on.
No,
Yeah.
none of that. None of that. I was 8. Things were very young and elastic back then.
You don't do this now, do you?
No, because I
Only
ripped
do this if you're 8.
I ripped one for about 20 to 30 solid seconds, and at the end, violently shit my pants. Like, it wasn't even a little bit. It was just like violently shit my pants. My parents just think it was the continuation of a fart. I like turn immediately red, and they're like, "Are you? Holy crap! Are you okay?" They don't have a clue to this day that I shoved an aquarium tube up my derriere for a couple seconds just to fart in front of them on command. But God, I just realized my mom might listen to this. Anyways,
Don't lie. How long did that air pump stay in your life?
He said he still got it.
I don't have the same one.
It's on
That
the
one
desk.
did finally burn out.
Well, yeah, because he's trying to freaking blow up Bullwinkle at Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade is what he's trying to do. For God's
Wait,
sake.
you burned a motor out on an air pump for a fish tank in your butt.
Yeah.
It wasn't in my butt.
Try to blow up the
I used it
Hindenburg
after
dinner.
the fact. Come on, all the judgment here. This is a safe place. It's story time.
This is not a safe place. You are so ridiculed and wrong. Oh my God.
So, anyways, I shit myself to an epic degree. I slowly walk away, trying to not have my parents notice.
Did you leave a trail?
I hope to God not. I never checked the carpet. I know the carpet was dark colors. I basically just cried in the shower. That's basically all I did. And to this day, I look at air pumps very weird. They haunt me, not as much as Sarah haunts you in the warehouse. But for those that don't that are listening to this, take it as a tale of caution. Be careful with your devices. Use as they're intended, and know that the antique Whisper air pumps are by far the most powerful I've ever made for commercial
So
plastic
he's
air
tried
pumps.
other brands.
Last time when I was here and I talked about gaseous exchange, this was not what I meant.
No, not at all.
Rob.
8-year-olds are the stupidest human beings on the planet, especially 8-year-old boys. Farts are still cool. Air pumps haunt me.
And stay tuned for Rob's second. Rob's second story of the night will be about the time that he, dried his hair in the shower with a blow dryer.
That'll be how I end my life. Just
That explains why he's so.
just to figure out a way of another device to make a fart noise.
Oh, that was,
Okay, so now that I've
Imagine his
officially
Make-A-Wish as an 8-year-old after that discovery.
Join Discord. GG Aquariums.
I don't know what that was. I just got a.
that was Sarah.
That was Sarah.
I was thinking of Gigi Allen.
I feel like I need a shower after that story. I just feel kind of. Ugh.
Well, someone please take me from my embarrassment. Who's up next?
This one has nothing to do with fish.
How about
It's okay. We
I've
need
never
anything
told
right
this-
now.
I've never told this story that will be available for the internet, so take that as you will.
Bentley,
But
we appreciate your sacrifice.
when I was in high school, I was a loan shark. Tell you, no. Whoa.
I love this
story.
I love how this starts out.
I have to tell you one other story first.
Okay,
Okay.
please.
So it's kind of it leads into why. When I was in my very early teens, so like 11, 12, 13, my dad and I were really into sports cards. Okay. We used to go every weekend, we would go to a different sports card show in a mall and we would sell sports cards. We got so heavily into like the collecting hobby that we started selling stuff. As a kid, I was always really, really good at numbers, math, understanding, pricing. Okay. So a lot of times what you would get is you would get these people who would, my dad would like leave the table because he knew that there was no way somebody was going to hoodwink his kid. And you get these older guys who thought, it's a little kid. I can totally get something off him dirt cheap. He won't know the difference. But deep down, Lil Bentley was a hustler. And the way that I figured out how to hustle people for money as a kid was through magic cards. Now, I'm a nerd. I love playing Magic. And I realized very early, nobody sells Magic cards at sports card shows. There's packs, and the kids that come with their dads, the dads are into sports cards. The kids don't give a dang, right? All they want is Magic in our area. We're in the Seattle area. This is where Magic started, okay?
Hey, I'm a Magic fan through and through. I got a couple $1,000 decks. I can confirm this.
I start selling singles.
Hot
the way
singles
that I make a
online?
deal is like, I've got to, no, I sold them at the sports card shows.
There you
There
go.
was no online back then, sir. This is 1993, 1994, 1995.
At the birth of Magic, where it belongs.
Right. This is real early. So I made a deal with one of the guys that's always at the shows, always had boxes. And it was basically, he was like, I'll give you any box of Magic you want that I had for $50 a box. Well, I could sell most of the chase cards for between $20 and $30 a piece. And he was almost guaranteed in a full box that I would make 2 to 3 boxes worth of money and also keep the things I wanted to keep aside. So very quickly, what I figured out is that young kids don't know the prices. I do. And those young kids will badger their parents until they just give in for the cards they want. It's like back then, the big thing was the Shivan Dragon. Every kid wanted a Shivan Dragon, even though it wasn't really that good. And they were, quote, worth $30 a piece. But you would get a kid who would want it so bad. I realized that if I didn't put a price on certain cards, I could get $50 to $60 a piece on them. And the parents would know no better because they would see that a box of Magic cards is $100. And you could basically convince them, listen, you're lucky if you get one of these every 2 boxes, and a box costs you $100. So you're looking at $200 to buy to get the one card your kid wants, or you just pay me $60 and you get the card.
Yeah, fast forward to 26 years into Magic the Gathering, and now you have an app that tells you the price. There was none of that back then.
This stuff didn't exist. There was a magazine called Scry, but even then,
You had
nobody
clue.
read it, and it wasn't
I
accurate.
did.
Man, I am with the right crowd tonight.
No, you're not.
So we keep that in mind. I used to hustle sports cards and Magic cards as a kid to make money. Fast
too,
forward to
if-
when I'm in high school. My senior year of high school, I have never done any illegal drugs. This is also
Me either.
important. But I knew no. I'm real weird in that I really care about my mental state, and anything that impairs my capacity over myself, I can't stand.
And you're on this
I'm a freak
podcast
about
and you're
that.
worried about your mental capacity?
I know.
What
Well,
the hell?
We're a compromise,
You know,
Jimmy.
It's a different kind of compromise. So
How about now?
in doing this, I was kind of that person. I wasn't in any given single social group. So I knew over time every drug dealer at my school. And I was that person who was well known as I owned my own little DJ business while I was in high school. I did all sorts of stuff. I was one of those people who networked I knew a guy for everything as far as what kids cared about when they were young. And I realized really quickly that most of the people at my high school never had money for lunch because they spent it on fucking pot. Very quickly, I realized I can profit off these idiots by loaning them money.
Ding.
And
Fast-
I'm a bad person for selling a cancer kid.
Fast forward about a month into me figuring this out, and I have one guy who had borrowed $20, and my deal was, if you pay me back within 2 days, there's no interest. After that, for every day you miss, the amount of money you owe me doubles.
Or a kneecap.
Wow.
Or a kneecap.
I was real
Kneecap's
brutal.
cheaper.
No, he doesn't do a kneecap. All right, Bentley has
But,
ways of Jack Dempseying you to talk.
Oh, no. So let's get into how this let's tell the meat of the story. And I did this through my entire senior year without a single administrator or teacher being the wiser. Yet almost every member of the student body knew that if you ever needed money, I was the person to talk to, but you better pay me back fast or it's going to be trouble. Fast forward a month into doing this, I got a guy that owes me $150, right? We had this guy, we'll just call him Big Red. He's 6'4", 360 pounds of solid muscle that's at my school. This guy had become my enforcer. And basically,
Hire it done.
you think, no, we're not even done yet. Hold on. We're not.
Don't worry.
Of the story.
You're still not as bad as butt tubes. So
So anytime somebody owed me more than $60, I would go talk to him, and the deal with him was very simple. He would intimidate them because he's a very large man, very scary, and I would buy him whatever he wanted for lunch. And what was noteworthy is that in our particular high school, you couldn't go off campus for lunch, with rare
Oh,
exceptions.
sweet deal.
I had an off-campus pass, so I could leave campus to get lunch.
Less sweet.
That guy loved him some Pizza Hut. And there was a Pizza Hut like 4 blocks away from the school. And it was very much a deal like the first time I remember negotiating with him, he's like, so I can have anything I want for lunch. Like, that's right. It's like, so if I want a large pepperoni pizza and a thing of breadsticks and a soda from Pizza Hut, I was like, done. It's like, I'll go get you your money. So
Can we call you
I
the
send-
Pizza Mafia? Is that what this is?
I send Big Red after this one guy who owes me like $150. And he's a horrible stoner, and I know it. He doesn't have the money. We're not going to actually hurt the guy, right? But it's just very much like all right, you got a week. If you can't pay it in a week, we're going to have some issues, right? Very, very faux mob boss kind of stuff. So Big Red comes back to me and goes, hey, man, I can't get it. I go, you know what? Don't worry about it. I'll still buy you lunch. Buy him lunch. While I'm out driving to go get lunch, I call every single drug dealer that deals at our school.
No.
All these guys know me because they know when their people don't have money, they can send them to me and they'll get a loan.
Right.
So I guarantee them income,
It's called
even though
networking.
I don't deal. Right?
Networking.
So I call them all. And I remember the first guy I called, he was a good buddy of mine. We used to play D&D together. This is how we knew each other, right? This is how I slowly started to learn who all the drug dealers were. Is like back in middle school, when we were like 13 or 14, we played D&D together. This is how I network. I network in the weirdest ways. So I call him, I'm like, yo, we'll call him Joe, okay? Joe, here's what's going on. Definitely not the guy's name. Owes me a lot of money. I know he's been buying from you. Blacklisted. Don't sell to him at all until he pays me back. He's like, dude, that's one of my best customers. He buys from me. I go, if you keep selling to him, I will not loan to any single person who buys to you ever again. He's like, are you serious? You're going to treat me like, I go, yes.
That's exactly it. You gonna get it?
It's like, okay, you got it. How long do you think it's going to be? And then I was basically like, when he pays me back, I'll tell you. I call everybody. I blacklist this guy from every person who deals drugs and get them to push it up further.
No.
So
I
basically,
remember
this guy
I went
can't
to
go
school.
through 6 different high schools worth of local high school dealers and get anything. I'll let you.
This
Alex,
was
go
the
ahead.
LARPing drought. This was the LARPing drought of 2003, I think.
What was the guy's name? Alex? Was it Alex?
Because I graduated before then.
It was Alex, wasn't it?
Whoa, wait.
So-
So this basically got all the way back into Heisenberg.
It went back to
So
Columbia.
This person comes by a day later, and his parents are pretty wealthy. I want to put this out there. This guy comes from a wealthy family. I lived in a relatively wealthy area. I was the poor kid on the street where I grew up. This comes back to me and goes, so how much do I owe you? I'm like,
250.
well, yesterday it was 150. Doubles every day. You owe me 300 today. He goes, if I can get you 300 tomorrow, is that okay? Just give me the one day. I can figure it out with my parents and get you paid. I went 300 tomorrow cash.
No credit cards.
Otherwise, you know what's going to happen. He goes, I called 10 different people. No one will sell to me. And I go, I know. Because I called them.
Oh, man.
And they know that no matter how much money you spend, because mommy and daddy give you money all the time, I bring in more money than you do. So that is the story
Of how you bought your
of
first
how
fish tank.
I was a loan shark and bought my first car, a lot of my upgrades to my DJ equipment, how I bought my second car, and how I afforded all sorts of nerd things in high school, despite my job being working at a small mom and pop burger joint.
That's perfect. I mean, that's basically Jimmy's upbringing, except it's, insert cash for Lefse. You know what I mean? Oh man, just the sheer like I want to know what's going through your mind. Like as a kid, you're like, and then the light bulb goes off. You're like the genius mobster. Kudos to you, man. Kudos
Just
to you.
deep down, I love money.
Who doesn't? But that's genius on
Nowadays,
top
I have
of
a
it.
lot more morals than I did as a high school child.
Well, you got a job, and yeah. I mean,
So let's go back to that first question about how to make money selling angelfish. Screw that. Go down to your local high school.
you loan people angelfish.
Become your local high school loan shark.
And then the moment that they don't pay you back for them, you just
Send
tell
Big
every pet store owner, be like, "Hey, I loan you a lot of money so kids can get fish tanks." Alex, you got one for us, or is that was the other one your second story?
Whatever you want it to be. Anything you want.
All you?
I want you to borrow money from Bentley.
Oh. I apparently wasn't as smart as Bentley because I just went straight to dealing the drugs at like 15.
It's like weird. You got a call and like, oh, Bentley said so. Okay.
Yeah, actually, we did like. I mean, I'm a little younger, but we grew up in the same 100-mile radius as one another, around the same city.
There you go. That's why you guys don't have Lefsa.
I literally though I used to. I mean, now that it's legal, might as well be everywhere. Yeah, I sold a bunch of pot to get like one of the things that motivated me selling pot when I was a teenager was because the purple metallic snakeskin delta tail guppy was a new thing that you could get on eBay from Thailand. And I literally like had someone basically I remember it was the same price as an ounce is what I paid for this stupid guppy.
Lasted about as
And I
long
lost
too, didn't
all
it?
clout. Yeah, lost all clout amongst drug dealing friends. They're like, "You should have gotten a piranha, bro." But clearly, I should have gotten a Jack Dempsey.
Clearly. Too good.
Yeah. Okay, so the next story, it's not a very long one.
That's
but
okay. We're wrapping up.
When I started on the YouTubes, I only had a few tanks because my wife and I live in an apartment, and I had just moved in with her maybe, I don't know, a year earlier or something. But it wasn't like we thought, okay, we're going to get a different place together soon kind of thing. So I was like, I'm not about to start collecting 40-gallon breeders in here or whatever. So I had like a 20 and a 10 and another 10 or something like that, I think. Maybe a little aquascape cube too. But two of the tanks, one had, if you guys know Lucas Brett's, it had a bunch of his shrimp in it. And I had a colony of, I think it was mostly red shrimp. Yeah, I think they were like his painted fire cherry reds that ended up winning Aquatic Experience, like best in show for American bred Neocaridina shrimp. And so he'd hook me up with some, but they weren't cheap. We weren't like good friends or anything at the time. Like, this is how I found out about him. So I had been doing this series on shrimp, and it was the best on the channel, you know, Secret History Living in Your Aquarium. That's an easy one for people to remember and type all the way out. So, you know, when I had something that finally gained ground, I was kind of like, sweet. So I realized people were digging on my shrimp stuff. Well, I had also done a video on peacock gudgeons and just done like a species profile. And the tanks were set up. So one was up here on kind of a rack, and the other was the shrimp tank on the floor, which is a dumb place for a tank, especially when you need to siphon it. But I had like realized, okay, I like brainstormed all these things that I could cover about shrimp, you know, the stages of life, how to grade shrimp, all these things. And I had all these baby shrimp in there. And I was pretty happy because it was the first time I picked shrimp back up in the hobby since they like came out in like 2004 or whatever, you know, when they were brand new and really novel, the Neocaridinas anyways. I go to bed, wake up next morning, and I look in the shrimp tank, and there's just dead shrimp everywhere. I can't even find a live shrimp. And I was like, what happened? And I go looking up in the other tank. No fish in the tank. And I was just like, what happened? And I'm looking around. Finally, I have to clean out the whole shrimp tank anyways, because I thought maybe I could fish out a couple live ones. And I did. I found like, I don't know, 6 live ones or something. But I found in that tank a male and a female peacock gudgeon that had been in the tank up and diagonal from it. So they both made a leap of faith down into my cherry shrimp tank, like a good 2 or 3 feet, distance between the height and the over a foot. And they managed to both get in there. So they either chased each other out of the tank and into there, or they both were like, "Oh, we're gonna ruin Alex's life," and then they just jumped. And they clearly didn't swallow the shrimp. They just chewed them. They just chewed them and then hid under a rock. And I don't know, but the crazy ironic part, and you can go back and watch these videos I cover. I think I made some melodramatic title like
Thunderdome,
or Gudgeon Cherry Shrimp Gudgeon Slaughter Fest or something.
Slaughter Fest.
The weirdest part is, so I take out the peacock gudgeons, throw them back in the tank, and I'm ready to like just put them in the disposal. I'm so pissed off.
The flushable
because
tank.
Shrimp. Yeah, shrimp are not cheap. And
they basically, like in 2004, they didn't even have a lot of neocardinia colors for people that are like really understanding this. Like this the getting shrimp at that time was unheard of, and you had to call in favors for people. I mean, crystals didn't even hit the scene until like 2011 and further.
Yeah, all the way back then, that was like, I mean, I think it was red, and then blue and orange came next, I think. But in any case, this was later than that. But they weren't cheap. These were Lucas Brett's LRB Aquatics that, he had some standing in the community. So
this must be 2014 because this was your YouTube channel, which is still prevalent.
Yeah.
Like the shrimp thing was emerging then, so it's still just as impactful.
Oh no. I was just saying 2004 is when the last time I had kept shrimp before this.
Gotcha.
Like, and that's when they were brand new, I think, like as a common thing. Okay. And so I put the gudgeons back in the tank, whatever. They're lame. No one cares about them. No one wants to see the gudgeon videos. And, I still actually do like peacock gudgeons, and I have a couple. But I put other fish back in there. And then I call Lucas, and I'm all like, "Hey, man, can I order the same thing I ordered like a month ago and just get another colony going?" And told him the story, and he's like, "That was dumb. You should have put a lid on your your tanks, And I was like, I know. And everyone had the same thing, like, duh, that happened. I still feel like I'm justified in assuming that a fish is not going to leap like 3 feet down and 1 foot over to eat all your shrimp. But I might be wrong. I mean, clearly that happened. So that tank, though, I have baby shrimp again in it a few months later. And I'm like,
no,
yeah, sweet. I'm raising these baby shrimp. And I made sure to move the tanks apart. All good.
Did you put up field goal posts? Just be like, clear.
The gudgeons could not get in. I was sure of it. I knew that they would try. What had happened, though, is about 2 months into it, after I'd got the new shrimp, and they started having babies. And when the babies are first born, they kind of disappear anyways. You're kind of like, I don't know where they went. Like, I saw that the mom was buried, but the babies kind of went away. And so I am looking around, and I'm like, man, I thought she had more babies than this, but I don't know. It's planted tank. Maybe they're just missing. And after that, like another week passes, and I'm sitting there staring at the tank, and I see a gudgeon swim by. And I'm like, what? Did my wife put another gudgeon in this tank? And it was a little gudgeon. Well,
wait a second.
Fish murdered my shrimp, and 4.5 months later, 2 baby gudgeons had hid in that tank. So they had murdered my shrimp and then like had a fest over the dead corpses of my shrimp.
Maybe that's why. And maybe the slaughter and not eating, the slaughter of shrimp just got them in the mood.
Well, I think there's something to that. So if you're trying to breed gudgeons for profit, just take them to your friend's house, put them in their shrimp tank,
feed them about $100 worth of shrimp, and sell the gudgeons for $2
bring them
a
to
piece.
Bentley's house.
Yeah,
stepping up.
Yeah, but
the peacock gudgeon.
Say that one more time.
Like the synchronized diving champion peacock gudgeons, apparently. They're getting the 6 from the Bulgarian judge.
I want to see a
Yeah,
competition
I
at
thought-
Aquashella of jumping gudgeons.
Well, it's kind of, I mean, like, I thought that was like, what are the chances? Like, because I thought, most of my fish don't grow very quickly, but apparently peacock gudgeons, most of the fry must have died, and it was a well-planted tank. So I guess they just, they grew to the size where they could eat baby shrimp quickly within a couple months. But I don't know what all they were eating until then. But that was weird. And the last little thing I had to say, because feeding fish, or I mean, jumping fish are on my mind, is that same store with the cancer kid. We used to have that Oscar for a while. And so we taught him how to jump through a hoop. We cut the lid of a brine shrimp thing out, like a plastic lid. So it was just the rim, me and this girl that worked there. And we would teach it to jump through in the tank out of the water for a treat, for blackworms or whatever. And you could get it to jump on command without giving it a treat first after a while. So you can teach your fish how to do this. But I didn't really think about it. And we would then taught it how to jump down, because he used to have 2 aquascape cubes. And so the girl's idea was, let's see if it can jump through the hoop over the edge down into the other tank. And so she would give it food and taught it how to do that. And then we sold it to that kid. But I was just thinking, man, I wonder if we taught that fish how to just jump out of the tank too.
Well, I think
I sold that.
you need to have a new YouTube series. Like, you guys want to hit some subscribers, like, for sure. Like, do a YouTube series, like a 4-part series of how to teach your fish to jump through hoops for shrimp or fun. I mean, either or.
And people were angry with Barnum and
did.
Bailey Circus. Be mad at Alex, for gosh sakes.
Yeah.
That's
I
pretty
only
great.
cattle prod my fish occasionally.
Occasionally,
Yes.
occasionally.
It's easy because you just put it in the tank real lightly and you get them all. You'll never miss.
You got another story for us there, Adam? If not, we can go to Jimmy.
Well,
The one thing
I can talk about the time I got something else super dangerous and deadly in my store.
All right, hit us quickly.
What's her name?
Okay, I told you guys the last time about how I had the Arizona bark scorpions.
A little bit, but refresh.
Yeah, refresh everybody.
So I took these Arizona bark scorpions from this lady at my store and I traded her for like a leopard gecko or something, because she was going to give them to the kids at the trailer park or in the neighborhood. And they're not something that you want little kids to have. So I just did the nice thing and took them in. Well, I had gotten a phone call from a lady that knew my store. She was coming back home. She was from Vegas. And she goes,
let's talk about the bark scorpion. Why are those such a problem?
well, they sting. And they're communal scorpion. They're actually kind of cool. I'm going to get some again.
What? There's communal scorpions?
Yes.
Oh, God.
I'm haunted.
Not as haunted as I was when he stuck that tube up your butt.
Hey, Sarah's going to come haunt you tonight.
But anyway.
With that tube.
All right, so they sting you. They're venomous. Rob's butt used to have tubes in it. Keep going.
They're not really, I would consider them mildly dangerous to children because there's no anti-venom in northern Minnesota. And I don't know how dangerous they could or couldn't be, so I just decided they glowed under the dark under a UV light. They glowed a pretty dark green. So I'm like, yeah, they're pretty dangerous. They had small little pinchers. I took them in. So this lady comes in, or she calls me, and she's like, I'm a couple hours away from your store. There was a scorpion crawling on my daughter in the car. And I'm just wondering if you could take it because we don't want it. I'm like, yeah, sure. Where were you guys at? And she's like, oh, we were near Arizona, Nevada. And I'm like, okay. I figured it was another Arizona bark. No biggie. She brings this scorpion to me, and the scorpion is big, and it's the sandy brown color, but it's got right below the stinger, it's got a bright, like neon black, like it's a dark black, but it's like a weird color black segment. And I'm like, well, that doesn't look like a Arizona bark. And I'm like, it was like closing time. So I'm like, I'm not going to worry about it. So I dump it in with the Arizona barks. I figure it's fine. It'll be all right. So I'm just trying to think in my head, what the hell's going on with this scorpion? And I talked to the lady, and she was going to come back, in a day or two. So I come back the next day. I come in early, and I look in my Arizona bark tank that's behind the counter so nobody can get the things. My Arizona barks are in a circle, like, the old wagon wheel thing, like the old, Western wagons.
Sure.
and they're all like facing outwards, and then there's parts of scorpions all over my cage. And I'm like, what the hell happened in here? And I find the other one, and I take the neon green light or the UV light, the black light, and I shine it in my scorpion tank. And then the new scorpion shows up, and that thing made the other ones look dull. Like, it is the brightest neon green that I have ever seen. Like, this thing is just dangerous as hell by looking at it. So I'm sending pictures to my friends and a couple of vendors, and I finally hear back from I'm like, what the hell is this thing? Because I don't even know what it was. And I messed with it. I took an adult cricket and I poked at it with the cricket. So it stung the cricket, and the cricket just literally twitched and died. And I'm like, well, that ain't good. They sent me a thing saying, well, yeah, but I had a pet store, so I had to deal with everything.
Oh, yeah. If you listen to prior story times, Adam has a history of getting stung by everything.
Yeah.
And then just kind of living with it and not going to the medical treatment.
Yeah. Northern Minnesota, they don't got any venom. I'm just going to ride this out.
Yeah, Adam doesn't have erectile dysfunction. He has erectile overreaction.
Sounds like he has a reptile and insect dysfunction.
Yes, he does.
He does have a reptile dysfunction.
So I finally get a phone call from one of my vendors, and it's one of my reptile vendors on the West Coast. And he goes, dude, what the hell where did you get that? I'm like, I don't know. Some lady brought it in. I don't know much about it. She brought it in. I was going to close. I threw it in with the Arizona bark scorpions. It ate a bunch of them. I'm guessing it's hungry. Can you tell me what the hell it is? He goes, I'm pretty sure that's a deathstalker scorpion. Where the hell did that come from? I'm like, he goes, I don't know, but you can't touch it because it will kill you in 15 minutes. Like, is that a guaranteed going to kill me in 15 minutes? Yeah, you're going to die. They call it Deathstalker for a reason, dumbass. Like, he was a good friend. Like, Jim would call me a dumbass.
You are a dumbass. So,
well, yeah.
Are these things native in Arizona?
No. The lady comes back a couple days later, and I'm like, this thing, how did you get this? And she goes, well, we were visiting friends in Vegas, and the husband just came back from Iraq. Put his duffel bag near our luggage, and then we loaded up our luggage after we said our goodbyes, and everything, because it's a Minnesota goodbye, so it's like 4 hours later. And they loaded it in the car. Well, the daughter said icky, and this scorpion was crawling up her leg. Brushed it off her leg, and the mom caught it because they had the AC going, so it wasn't going very fast. The mom caught it in a cup and then brought it to me in like a McDonald's cup. And I'm like, you're very lucky, because I was told by a vendor that this is a Deathstalker scorpion, and if she'd have been stung, she'd have been dead, because there's no there's nothing. You're just pretty much SOL. So I had to move the Deathstalker.
For a quick look, that's a venomous scorpion.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then the cops came, and
there's a couple variations of going even further. Like, there's the yellow ones. Apparently, the black ones are the worst. Like, the yellow ones, they say, aren't particularly lethal unless you're elderly, a child, or have some sort of like heart condition. But the blacker ones are the ones that have the real problem. They're from Israel.
Well, that's what I couldn't figure out, is how the hell it got to Iraq from Israel, but I don't ask questions.
There even
That's not a long walk.
There's a legality clause on these. They're illegal and highly regulated on most countries. Laws prohibiting even keeping them in general. Only certain zoos with licenses can have them for educational purposes.
I can buy one for $15 tomorrow.
I'm assuming there's a few different kinds.
Yeah. I want to talk about the elephant in the room that nobody's asked about yet, and I know it's on everybody's mind. So when you shine the black light in your tank with the Deathstalker and the other ones, did all the little pieces of the other ones just kind of glow too? So it was like really pretty?
They did.
So it was kind of like looking into a starry night down in your tank.
I was going to ask why he had
Pretty
stains all over his face, and, with the glow light, but never mind.
But no, so that was the Deathstalker, and then I got in an argument with the police department, and they wanted me to kill it, and I didn't want to. And yeah, the cop got mad because there was an ordinance in Grand Rapids saying no exotics, so they tried to get me to get rid of all like my reptiles. And I'm like, look, if it wasn't for me, you guys would have this type of shit running around. And I showed her the Deathstalker and then
there you go,
the bark scorpions, and she got pissy with me, and I said, fine, I won't take cats in anymore, or kittens. So I just made sure all the kittens went to her. And after about 2 days, they decided that they were going to let me keep whatever I wanted within reason.
No lions, tigers, and bears. Oh my!
Well, it was just stupid. I mean, I was there. I helped out. I took care of stuff for them. I made sure it was stuff that they didn't have to deal with, and they didn't even realize it was going on until because I would take it.
Now, didn't you go a couple of times for the police department and capture snakes? If I remember right.
Yeah, I had to catch a couple. Then I got called to
Where do you live again?
I lived in northern Minnesota, in Grand Rapids.
Oh, okay, like Duluth. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I lived about an hour and a half. What is it?
From Duluth,
north of Duluth.
Way up there.
Now,
yeah, way up.
Oh,
there.
you betcha.
I had gotten a phone call from the Duluth Police Department at one time because some guy had a cobra loose in his apartment complex, and then Sherry yelled at me because I was going to go get it, and then they had some guys from the cities drive up to go catch it. But yeah, I mean, I was the one that would deal with this stuff because nobody else would, and so the cop just kind of pissed me off. I did kill it eventually because it just got too dangerous because the kids all knew that it was in the store. So if I was helping customers, they'd try to sneak behind the counter to look at it. And I'm like, nah, done.
I'm just glad you didn't take the same, precautions like you did with the lionfish or any of the other stuff,
Or you called me and your doctor.
I did it in a tank for a few months. Like I'd feed it and stuff. It was fun to have.
You're a sick human being. Let's just feed it more scorpions because Thunderdome.
Scorpions are expensive.
That's it. This podcast is now Storytime 3, the Thunderdome.
Thunderdome.
That's what it is.
I got a quick thing for Bentley real quick, and I don't know if Bentley's heard this or not. Earlier, you're talking about sports cards. You're talking about magic cards. And Rob does have a huge collection of magic cards, which I make a lot of fun of.
I make a lot of money.
And so, Bentley, if you need some, let me know, because a lot of times Rob's isn't home, and I can just steal them. But did you happen to see?
He's got a cheap one called Black Lotus.
There we go.
That one.
No. I have the Underground Sea. There you go.
Wow. I don't even know where to start looking. This has happened last week, and I don't know if you caught it. We all know who Rob Kardashian is. And Rob Kardashian.
Whoa. You got to remember that our listeners are mixed. Some of them are your age. Some of them are my age. And
who does not know about the Kardashians?
I don't think people know about Dad Kardashian, which is the guy that helped get O.J. Simpson off.
Yeah, there's lawyer Kardashian that saved OJ.
Right.
They're best friends.
Right. So do continue. Now
this is Rob, the son. And we all know the Kardashians have a little bit of money.
A little bit.
Just a little bit of money. Here's what the SOB hit last week. Rob Kardashian hit the football card equivalent of the lottery this week, pulling an insanely rare Tom Brady card that could be worth about $250,000. Here's the deal. Rob is a massive sports card collector who's been buying boxes of rare cards from his pals over at the Bullpen Card Shop in Los Angeles. About 3 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday morning, Rob was feeling the urge to buy a case of 2020 Panini Mosaic Choice Hobby Cards, which comes with 20 boxes of cards. No word how much Rob paid for the case, but they usually run around about $10,000. It ain't exactly a cheap hobby anymore.
What?
So this is like at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, Rob calls up his card buddy at the shop.
You just get that urge. You need to crack some cardboard crack, y'all.
Yeah. And so Rob couldn't personally make it to the store, which I'm assuming because he's too drunk or too high. So he gave the green light to the guys at the Bullpen to open it on his behalf and even allowed him to stream it on IG Live. And he hit some big cards. There were some cool
too rich.
Yeah. He got about 4 or 5 cards, but the biggest one was the Tom Brady card. So they'll figure he's probably going to gain about $300,000 to $400,000 from this one box of cards.
We're in the wrong business.
I know. I'm just so mad.
Well, now that you got us craving cardboard crack, you got a story?
Do I have a story? I do have a cute little story, which involves the same spot when I went to this little town of Frazee. And so now
that you've been making out with Sarah the ghost.
Yeah, this is a couple of months later now. I'm still at the same old place where it used to be the funeral home. But now I don't go there at night. I go there in the afternoon. I'm out of there by 6 o'clock at night. I'm just not going to be there during evening hours. So I'd gone over to Brainerd, Minnesota. There was an older gentleman named Joe who I would buy angelfish from. And he would have, he sold a lot of black angelfish to me. So I went over to Brainerd, which is about 90 miles away. I came home. I had 350 angelfish in one bag with about 8 gallons of water in there. when I came home, I took it out of the back of my minivan. Now you have to realize this is an hour and a half drive home, and I've got plenty of tanks ready for these fish. And when I picked up the box, the bottom of the box broke. The bag hit the ground, and in front of the funeral home, the bag fell out, and all the fish went floating down the street because it was downhill. And so I had all those hundreds of angelfish, going down the gutter through the rocks and the glass and the garbage and stuff. And so I'm out there just in panic mode I had to go get a bucket of water, and I'm just grabbing the nets and fingers, and I'm throwing these fish in as fast as I can as we're going down the stream. And anyway, little do I know is that they took my picture. The city newspaper was just down the street, and the headlines were local man brings minnow races back to Frazee.
I gotta get a copy of this. This is the Frazee paper?
Yes.
Oh,
You're
I
lucky
gotta
that it
find a
wasn't
picture.
local man introduces goldfish into lake or
Right?
something.
Yeah.
Something horrible.
Minnow racing into.
Minnow racing.
They
and
used to
they're
have minnow
taking
racing
pictures.
apparently years ago.
That's actually still a big
They
thing
do
in a
have
couple towns
bars
around
here.
us.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got a lot of crap about that, but that's then I moved out of that town.
For those that are listening, I want you to do us a favor. Frazee, Minnesota, they have a local paper. Find that, put the picture on, email it to us. Whoever can find that first, I will give a T-shirt to, an Aquarium Guys T-shirt.
And this was probably about 15 years ago.
Done. All right, there I said it here live. Maybe someone live on Discord will already do it. Who knows? But we'll look out for that T-shirt. So who won the race?
Who won the race?
You, or did you rip your pants?
I will say this, that several of those fish looked like they had been played baseball and slid into third base because they were pretty scuffed up. It was a pretty sad ordeal. And the nice thing was, too, it was fall. So it was like, pretty dang cold out. And by the time I got done, I was pretty upset.
It was Sarah. You could just hear you dumped the fish.
Probably.
Hackling in the background.
I wouldn't doubt it one bit.
Well, as long as they weren't swimming to the Thunderdome. I mean, that's
They were
the theme
swimming.
today.
Well, a few did go down the sewer drain. A few of them did make it to the bottom of the hill.
They're just, they're still there.
They're probably
they're
still
chilling with Sarah.
Oh.
All right. Well, I think I'll finish up then. I swear nothing will go up my butt for this next story. You guys got to do a couple stories that weren't necessarily fish related, so I'll hit an embarrassing one again.
My computer's gonna die, and I love you. I just want you to know that.
All right, Alex, it's been a pleasure. If you disconnect, join on your phone. We forgive you. But
Okay.
as we finish up here, I am married to my wife now. I have to think about this. 8-9 years, right? And I am 30 years old.
I like how you look at me for an answer.
Right, I'm just.
Yeah.
I have to look at something bewildering, so I feel better. So I think it's 8-9 years, and I was old fashioned, right? We met in high school, and we dated since I think 2008. So we've been together a while, right? And I'm being old fashioned, right? I was always the one that didn't want to move in with someone, stick to abstinence, have my first time be with my wife when we're married, that whole thing. So the only thing I found acceptable was that I, if we're going to live in the same house, it's going to be with my parents because I'm dumb, right? I'm dumb. So we're dating, and
You sound like a fun dude to date.
oh man, you guys have a way better story. You didn't stick airlines up your ass. You guys had money making schemes. I had none of this. So
You kind of remind me of Howard from Big Bang Theory.
I'm the dude that kept weird shit in jars, and then clearly
Real shit in jar.
Literal shit in jars.
literal shit in jars. It's another story from another podcast we just did. I think it was last week. But my parents have a pretty big house. I grew up on a small lake. It's a private lake. And my parents had an obsession with having a ton of dogs. At night, my parents didn't feel like they needed to take out the dogs. So I was the one that took the untrained dogs. To this day, I hate having dogs. I love Jimmy's dog. They're trained. They're wonderful. They got little collars to make sure they stay at home. I didn't have any of that, so I had to walk my damn dogs. And they had 6-7 dogs at any given time. So I had to go out and walk the dogs at night. And I do them a couple at a time or one at a time. So we had this little Pekingese with us. And for those that don't know, it's like a pug, but longer hair, longer body.
This is a disposable dog.
Gross looking,
If it dies, you flush it.
pom-pom looking piece of shit. So get outside, and my parents have an elevated house because they put it onto a basement. I'm sticking to abstinence, right? I haven't seen my wife, completely nude at this time. That's the best way I can put it for you, Jimmy. I'm sorry. So I'm outside doing the dogs. She's in her own room on the one side of the house. And as I'm taking the dog's sitting there and he starts taking a piss in front of me. And I have a thing where wherever I'm at, I seem to swallow things randomly, like bugs continually. If I'm by a tank, I'm the guy that grabs the hose, swallows tank water. I once had not only tank water, but I sucked a fish, swallowed it in my mouth, and choked on it. I have a long history of just swallowing random shit. No matter where I go, it could be a bug, could be anything. So, given this special talent,
I have 100 one-liners, and I'm not going to say any of them.
I appreciate that. You're a kind gentleman that understands my problems on this episode. So, I'm taking out the dog, and I'm not paying attention, and I look up in the window, like there's no blind on the window, and it's open to just the screen. I'm not hearing anything. I'm kind of focused on the dog. I'm just sick of having the damn dog I got to take outside. And all I do is hear a small noise. I look up, and about 3 feet from my head is the person that is now my wife getting undressed, but she's kind of, derriere to the window. She just pulled down her pants, and her entire back end side was like 2 to 3 feet from my face. And this was the first time I've ever seen that, much less had this view of my wife's downstairs. And at that very moment, it was like the world came to one, and Sarah... No, I'm kidding. And a bug, a giant June beetle. Like, if you've seen these June bugs, they're huge sons of bitches. Flies into my mouth as I'm going, and just grabs that diddler on the back of your throat and holds on for dear life. Like it's a stripper pole and he's trying to make some ones. All right. Just holds on for dear life. And that's a big bitch. You need to Google these things if you've never heard of a June bug, if you're in another country or whatever. And just holds on. So now take it from my wife's point of view. This is mine. I go gasping because it's the first time I've seen my wife's hoo-ha and future wife's hoo-ha at this point, right? And just sitting there and just holding on for dear life. And at that moment I go, what are you holding on to? Hears me gasp and then immediately following with projectile vomiting. Just blah, like inches away from a peeing dog right in front of me. Just grabs on. I have a really big gag reflex. I try to swallow and vomit all over like a cartoon. So my wife turns around, sees that I'm puking at the sight of her lovely lady parts, and will not talk to me for like 4 days. I had to, in the doghouse. It's all over. Fluke you, June bugs. That was like the most demeaning part of my life, even past the airline tubing in my butt.
That is so disturbing in so many ways.
Right. So that was the wonderful moment I was trying to save for my wedding day, and it was so much worse than I would have ever imagined.
You do know that you've said this on a podcast, and I'm going to make sure that your wife knows about this.
Oh, I'm going to tell her when I leave.
No.
She's up.
Thanks, Jim.
I'm going to find her.
Yeah, I don't know who I'm more.
Airline up the derriere.
Airline up the derriere.
Swallow
Slightly, just enough to make a fart noise.
We've talked about
First time I see ladies' stuff, vomit.
Yeah,
First time I see specifically my wife's.
But then brags that he has an incredible gag reflex.
I do.
He really held back.
I'm easily grossed out. You said something before, Bentley. It wasn't coming in.
Oh, it's just like we're going down the series of things here. We've got airline tubing up derriere, swallow nearly anything, throw up the first time we see the lady bits. Are we sure that the wife is not a cover story?
Yeah,
Oh,
I guarantee you she is.
There's other stories to go along with it.
I'm going to go upstairs, make sure she has lady parts. I apologize in advance, but I'm doing it.
So the moral of the story is don't go outside when there's June bugs. Don't use air blind pumps except for their intended use. And above all else, you don't put fish in for a Thunderdome.
Don't borrow money from Bentley. Don't buy reptiles from Adam.
Yeah, and get a power cord for your computer, Alex. So
And ensure proper gaseous exchange
Right.
with your weather roach.
with your weather locus.
You know, between Bentley and Alex tonight, I think I should buy them each like an aquarium glass, top or something, because they seem to have problems with
something.
stuff.
Something, or at least a trophy of making it through the battle of this podcast. Well, gentlemen, you have any other closing notes? I will take your shocked and horrible faces as a note of how well we did this podcast. So again, if you guys feel bad for me, want to buy Adam a new microphone, go to the Aquarium Guys podcast website, aquariumguys.com, and on the bottom you can send some financial stimulus our way to keep the lights on. We appreciate it. Also, support our sponsors. They support us. And thanks to Joe again for sponsoring the podcast. I think he left here a little bit ago, but thank goodness he didn't hear that last story. I'll give a free T-shirt for whoever finds the picture of Jimmy in the paper from years back. Frazee, Minnesota. Hunt it down.
I'm
free
gonna,
T-shirt.
I'm going to go out and get some money and buy some soap. I just want to get rid of this funk that's hanging on me right now. I feel like I've been through a shit show.
Just scrub it down.
Just scrub it down. I feel like I was violated in so many ways.
Before we go, don't forget to go to Bentley
Pascoe.
Damn it, it's like Tabasco. Go to Bentley Pascoe's YouTube channel right now. It is in the show notes. If you don't subscribe, I'm gonna force Jimmy to eat more June bugs. So also, Secret History, Living in Your Aquarium. Go on that one as well. It's in there. Thank you, Alex. I know your battery died. Go like and subscribe. All right, guys. Until next week, we'll
maybe we'll be on the air.
Fluke you, June
Go
bug.
fluke yourself.
Thanks, guys, for listening to the podcast. Please go to your favorite place where podcasts are found, whether it be Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, wherever they can be found. Like, subscribe, and make sure you get push notifications directly to your phone so you don't miss great content like this.
I never knew that a Minnesota accent could be so sexy until I heard Adam's voice.
Go fuck yourself, don't you know?
That's my boy. Don't you know?